Maigret and the Hundred Gibbets, also known as The Hanged Man of Saint Folion, is a novel by the Belgian writer Georges Simenon. The original French-language version Le Pendu de Saint Folion appeared in 1931. It is one of the earliest novels by Simenon featuring the detective Jules Maigret. In the story, Maigret follows to Bremen, Germany, a man who is behaving oddly and then commits suicide. His investigation leads him to a group of men, now having various careers, who knew each other when they were students in Liège, Belgium.
Simenon's Maigret, a series of plays based on the novels of Georges Simenon.
I needed that.
Trouble, Jules?
Not exactly. I've just come from the mortuary. A body was fished out of the Seine last night. Straightforward suicide.
He's hardly a first corpse.
Hardly. But you know, Georges, however many times you meet it, death remains death.
You must have seen many men die.
Hundreds. Any policeman doing his job gets used to that. Up to a point. Yes, I've seen men die. There's one death I remember still if I wake in the small hours. One dead man I'll never forget.
Why?
Because I killed him.
Maurice Denham as Jules Maigret and Michael Gough as Georges Simenon in Maigret and the Hundred Gibbets, translated by Tony White and adapted for radio by Betty Davis.
A half-starved down-and-out who died in a cheap hotel in Bremen a very long time ago. I'll never forget him.
Of course. Louis Genet.
Oh, that wasn't his real name.
I know. You still blame yourself?
If only I hadn't followed him. It was an impulse. I'd finished a job in Brussels, and it was a beautiful day. There was this scruffy little man in the corner of the cafe packing 1,000-franc notes into a brown paper parcel. At least 30 of them. I had nothing better to do, so I followed him to the post office. Watched him write the address. Louis Genet, 18 Rue de la Roquette, Paris.
You even remember the number?
I remember everything about him. The parcel said printed matter. Printed matter. It's an odd way to describe 30,000 francs. Well, I kept on shadowing him. He went into a shop in the Rue Neuve and bought a cheap 5er suitcase. I bought another one, identical.
Where did you think you were going?
Well, God knows. It seemed a good idea at the time. I followed him to his hotel. I followed him to the station. We both caught the train to Amsterdam.
And then the Amsterdam-Bremen Express.
Yes. I sat opposite him. I couldn't make him out. He was too nervous, too shabby to be an international crook. And yet there were those 30,000 francs. He left the compartment for a few minutes to go to the WC. I changed our cases over. Mine was full of old newspapers. When we got to Bremen, he spent a bit of time looking for a hotel. Couldn't find one cheap enough, I suppose. And then he booked into this dump near the station. I got the room next door. There was a communicating door. I watched him through the keyhole. He opened the suitcase, my suitcase. He stared at the old newspapers. He took a revolver from his pocket. and shot himself through the mouth.
Louis Genet, mechanic. 33 years of age, born Aubervilliers. That is all we know.
May I see that passport, Inspector? Thank you. We don't even know that.
What?
No, this passport is a forgery. So, he's a man without a name.
The press already have these details. They will be in tomorrow's papers.
Oh, it doesn't matter. He may well have been using the name Louis Genet for some time. Look, I'd like to send copies of your photographs to Paris. When they're published, someone may recognize it. Come forward.
Why was he in Bremen?
Oh, an appointment, perhaps. This suitcase might tell us. Just a moment.
An old suit.
Anything in the pockets? Nothing. A suit and some dirty linen, that's all.
But it's much too big. It couldn't have belonged to the dead man.
No. Somebody else's suit. Now, why should he kill himself for that?
The suit had not been worn for several years, at least 6, maybe more. It had a name tab, Roger Morcel, tailor, Rue Haute-Sauvenière, Liège. It does not appear to be the property of the dead man, who was too small to wear it. Unlike his own clothing, it had no grease spots, but various tears suggested that the wearer must have been in a struggle. Finally, the most important point. The suit was badly stained with blood, human blood. The man who wore it must have been drenched in it.
Entschuldigung.
Ja.
Dieser Mann Louis Genet, der Mann, der sich gestern Abend erschossen hat.
Ja, da drüben.
Danke.
Did you know him?
Oh, you're French?
Yes. Are you?
I'm Belgian, but I've lived in Bremen for years. No, I don't know him. But I read in the paper that a Frenchman had committed suicide in Bremen, so I thought I'd come to the mortuary and have a look. Are you from the police?
Yes, police headquarters.
And you came to Bremen on purpose? Well, no, of course you couldn't have done it. It only happened last night. Do you know anyone here?
No.
Oh, well, perhaps I can be of some help to you. May I offer you an aperitif?
No, well, thank you, Monsieur...
Van Damme. Joseph Van Damme. Well, this is pleasant. Yes, do you know, I sometimes go for a month without having a chance to speak my own language. My staff and even my secretary are German. Well, it's essential, you see, for business reasons. Oh, it can be a strain.
I imagine it can.
Yes. You wouldn't believe how much money these people are worth. I mean, that man at the corner table, for instance, is selling a cargo of wool. He owns 30 or 40 ships. Yeah. Yes, beer's good here, isn't it?
Yeah, very good.
Oh, by the way, what do you make of this suicide? Was he a down and out?
It's possible.
Are you making inquiries about him?
No, that's up to the journals.
Yes, of course. Yes. Well, I only asked because he was a Frenchman. Well, look, Inspector, it's almost midday. Will you lunch with me? I'll have to invite you to a restaurant because I'm a bachelor, you see. But I try and see you had a decent meal.
It was 5 o'clock before he let me go. I looked him up. He was born in Liège. He lived in Bremen 3 years, and he was doing well.
How long did you stay in Bremen?
Oh, I left for Paris late that night. I took both suitcases, one still holding the suit.
When did you get back?
The next afternoon.
The Paris press had the story by then, I imagine.
Yeah. So, there was a woman waiting for me in the Quai des Orfèvres. You knew this man?
He was my husband.
Madame, sit down.
Oh, yes, monsieur.
When did you last see him?
He left me 2 years ago.
How long have you been married?
6 years.
And he was already called Genet?
Of course. He was a driller in a workshop.
You have a family?
One little boy. We live with my mother. She has a herbalist shop in the Rue Picpus. We were very happy at first, but I always felt something was wrong.
Why?
Oh, it was almost as if Louis wasn't really our sort. As if it all got too much for him. He was very loving sometimes. He'd take me in his arms suddenly and hold me so close he'd hurt me. And just as suddenly he'd push me away.
Now, how did your mother get on with him?
She didn't like him. He was too different.
Was there anything he owned that he kept especially carefully?
How did you know? Yeah, an old suit.
An old suit, I see. Did he explain?
No. I didn't understand it. I went to mend that suit once. It was torn, and he snatched it from me. He was angrier than he'd ever been.
Was he often angry?
More and more as time went on. I think he was ill. He was suffering, I'm sure of it. After the baby was born, he started to drink.
But didn't he want the child?
He was like a madman when I told him we were going to have a baby. Oh, but he loved our little boy. I know he did.
His past, his family. I suppose he talked to you about them.
Not much. Said he was an orphan. All I know is he was an educated man. Too educated for the work he did. The woman next door always came to him if she had a difficult letter to write. Inspector, will he be brought back to France?
I'm not sure.
I know my mother wouldn't pay to bring back his body. She wouldn't even give me the money to go and see him.
Well, don't worry, madame. I will arrange for your husband's body to be brought back home. This is 18 Rue de la Roquette.
Yes?
Louis Genet.
No, not here.
Has he still got his room?
Yes.
Any letters for him?
Who wants to know?
The police.
Well, this package came yesterday.
From Brussels, yes. Did he get many parcels like this?
Oh, now and then. Oh, what's he done? He seemed a quiet sort of chap.
Where did he work?
Up the road, when he worked.
What do you mean?
Well, he was a drunk. I mean, he'd be all right for a few weeks, then he'd go on a jag upstairs and drink till he passed out, for days at a time.
28, 29, 30. It's all there. The 30,000 francs that started me off following him. Better give the numbers to the Belgian police. Maigret.
Reams for you, Chief Inspector Maigret.
Now put them through.
Chief Inspector Maigret?
Yeah?
I own the Café de Paris, Rue Carnot, Reims. It's about the man who shot himself in Bremen. I saw his picture in the paper.
Oh, do you know him?
Well, no, not exactly. But he was in here 6 days ago. I remember him because I refused to serve him. He was drunk.
Ah, thank you. I'd like to talk to you. I'll be in Reims tonight. Yes, he was here. White as this tabletop. I didn't like the way he was staring. I told him I couldn't give him any more. He wouldn't make a fuss. He had an old suitcase with him. When he went out, it burst open and some old clothes fell onto the floor. Anyone else here? Yes, there's people playing billiards at the third table. Irregulars. I better tell you the whole story, even though it doesn't sound very likely. The next day, a commercial traveller, not a regular, told me he'd seen the drunk
At 1 in the morning was Monsieur Bellois. They both went into Monsieur Bellois' house.
Who's Monsieur Bellois?
Oh, that's the tall, fair man playing billiards.
Where does he live?
5 minutes away. The Rue de Vaux. He's vice chairman of the Banque de Crédit.
I'm afraid I'm calling rather early,
Oh,
but
no, the other gentlemen are here. They're expecting you.
Oh.
This way, sir.
Was it? Monsieur? Well, fancy meeting you here.
Monsieur Van Damme.
Yes. Well, why didn't you tell me in Bremen that you knew Bellois? You know, we could have travelled together. I had a telegram calling me to Paris on business, so I took the chance to come up here and say hello to Bellois.
Well, forgive me for disturbing you, Monsieur Bellois. I know you're expecting someone else.
I am, but how did you know that?
Well, your maid thought I was expected. I'm not, so somebody else must be.
Who are you?
Chief Inspector Maigret, Police Headquarters. You may have seen me last night in the Café de Paris. I was making some inquiries about a case.
Well, surely not the Bremen affair?
That's precisely what it is. Monsieur Bellois, would you look at this photograph? Did you bring that man here one night last week?
No, I don't know.
Or didn't he speak to you when you were coming back from the Café de Paris?
What are you talking about?
That evening a drunk left the Café de Paris shortly before you. Everyone noticed him. When you left, he came up to you in the street.
Oh, I think I remember. He asked me for a light.
And you came back here with him?
Certainly not. I'm not in the habit of picking up tramps.
Then you came home alone?
Of course.
Was the drunk the man in the photograph?
I don't know. I didn't even look at him.
Oh, well, then I'll apologize and go, Monsieur Bellois.
Oh, no, just a minute. Don't rush off, Inspector. Bellois has some splendid old liqueur brandy. Well, he and I have known each other for years. We were students together.
In Liège?
Yes. Yes, well, it's nearly 10 years since we met, and now he's married, he's got a little boy. Haven't you finished with your suicide yet?
My inquiries have only just begun. This must be your other guest.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning. Is Monsieur Bellois? It's all right. I know the way. Hello. Were you expecting me?
Chef Lombard, friend. Chief Inspector Maigret, Police Headquarters.
Oh, good. Good. Fine.
It's another Belgian, Inspector. It's a real Belgian reunion. Lombard is the only one who still lives in Liège. Well, look, you missed the dinner I wanted to give you in Bremen. How about lunching with us later on?
No, thank you. There are some things I have to do. I won't ask you if you know this man, Monsieur Lombard, because that would be too extraordinary a piece of luck.
I don't know him.
When are you going back to Paris, Inspector?
I don't know yet. Well, my apologies, gentlemen. Good morning.
Inspector. Lunching here all on your own? So that's what you meant by things to do.
Monsieur Van Damme.
Yes, let me get you a liqueur. Waiter?
Sir?
Armagnac, Inspector?
No, thank you.
Yes. Two, let's see, 1867 Armagnac. And balloon glasses, please. Look, I've hired a car to take me back to Paris. Let me give you a lift.
Well, thank you, but
Chief Inspector Maigret. Paris is on the line for you.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, certainly. It's settled then. I'll give you a lift back. Delighted to be of help.
Maigret speaking.
Chief Inspector, we've heard from Brussels about those 1,000-franc notes.
Yes?
They were issued to Louis Genet by the Banque Générale de Belgique in payment of a cheque signed Maurice Bellois.
It's very odd, meeting friends again after all these years.
Not for 10 years, you say?
Yes. I don't want to run them down, but That stifling provincial atmosphere. Mind you, Belloir's done pretty well for himself.
And Jeff Lombard?
Oh, splendid chap. He wanted to be a painter, you know, but he finished up a photo engraver. Married. 2 children, 1 more on the way. Hello. What's wrong? Oh, dear me.
Sorry, monsieur, we've got a puncture.
Oh, that's a nuisance. I do apologise, Inspector. Hope you didn't want to get back to Paris urgently.
No, that's all right. How long will it take?
About a quarter of an hour.
Oh, that's not too bad. Well, let's go out and stretch our legs.
What river would that be?
The Marne. It's in flood.
The waters are very high.
Yes. We don't make enough use of water power, you know. There's a dam in the Ukraine.
Look out! You nearly had me in. What the hell? You push me. You tried to kill me. Well, get up.
You can't arrest me. Nobody saw. I'll deny it.
No, get back to the car. I'm taking you to police headquarters in Paris. Well, now, Monsieur Van Damme, how did you come to know the Bremen suicide?
In what capacity am I here?
You refuse to answer my question?
I know the law as well as you. If you're charging me, I won't answer till I see the warrant for my arrest. And if you're not charging me, I don't have to say anything. Now, I told you I'll deny everything that happened on the towpath. What have you got against me? You showed me a photograph of a man I don't know. He killed himself. Now, everyone knows that. Why are you following it up? There's been no crime.
You're quite free.
What?
You're free. I may add I'm prepared to return your kindness and invite you to dinner.
Can I go back to Bremen?
Why not?
Well, what do I owe you for the car?
Nothing.
Fool.
Lucas, that man who's just left me, follow him. To the ends of the earth, if necessary.
Lucas lost him, didn't he?
Well, he couldn't help it. Van Damme went straight to the station and caught the 6:19 to Liège. Oh, I cursed. I'd just decided to go there myself. But I was pretty sure Van Damme knew it. Seemed to be getting under my feet on purpose.
At this stage, you had no idea what was coming.
Well, as far as I can remember, none. I had to find all the answers. It was a kind of...
expiation?
If you like, yes. Van Damme's transformation was almost funny. There wasn't a trace left of the effusive, confident businessman. You know, all the time I was talking to him, I was making a list in my mind, an odd sort of list.
What was it?
The children. There seemed to be so many children involved.
The little boy in the Rue Picpus, for one.
Yes. Another little boy in Belloir's house in Reims. And Jeff Lombard's 2 children in Liège.
With a third on the way.
Yes, third on the way. I had to go to Liège and see Lombard. But before I left Paris, I found out something.
I recognized the photograph in the paper at once. But his name isn't Louis Gernet. He's my brother, Jean.
And you are...
Armand Lecoq d'Anville. I've brought my papers.
Yeah. Born in Liège, 35 years of age. Mechanic,
Well, I'm a messenger now. I've done a bit of everything.
Including time, I see.
Yes. I deserted from the army when I was serving abroad. I was only 16, and there was an amnesty later anyway. I haven't seen Jean for years. But that's him, all right.
What was he like?
Well, he was the steady sort. I'm the failure. I've been stupid. But Jean, He won a scholarship, went on to college and then university. I left home then.
Have you heard from him recently?
No. I was told he left Liège 10 years ago. Are you quite sure he killed himself?
Quite sure.
Oh, he had such promise. I can't believe he went the same way as me.
He had the same meek, worried eyes as his brother. He sat there, screwing up his cap in his hands, anxious and defeated. I could hardly bear to look at him. I took the night train and arrived in Liège at 6 in the morning. By 9 o'clock I was ringing the bell of a house in the Rue Hors Château. There was a zinc plaque on the wall. Central photo engraving. Jeff Lombard.
Give it a push, it's open.
Monsieur Lombard?
He's in the office with the gentleman. There, that way. First door on the left.
Who is it? Oh.
May I come in? Good morning, Monsieur Van Damme. I thought I might find you here.
Morning. What can I do for you?
Well, I just want a little information, Monsieur Lombard. I'm sorry to disturb you. I'd like to know if a few years ago you knew a certain Jean Lecoq d'Anville. Well?
I think I've heard the name before. He's from Liège, isn't he?
Yes.
I don't know what became of him. So long ago.
Jeff! Quick, Jeff!
What?
It's arrived.
What?
A girl. Hurry.
Excuse me?
Yeah, of course. We were left alone. Van Damme lit a cigar, tried to ignore me. I ignored him with less effort. The walls of that office were pretty remarkable.
The Hanging Men.
Yes, The Hanging Men.
It comes straight out of Francois Villon.
Ballad of the Hanging Men. There was a quotation from it written under one of the drawings. There must have been hundreds of them. Sketches, paintings, watercolours. And nearly all were variations on the same subject. A hanged man. One swung from a gibbet where an enormous crow perched and brooded. There was a forest landscape with a hanged man swinging from the branch of every tree. Some of the men were in 16th century costume. There was one hanged lunatic in top hat and tails swinging from a lamppost. But most of them hung from a church steeple. And the church was always the same.
You must forgive me. I've just had a daughter. I'm so sorry to leave you.
Well, I had plenty to look at. Your paintings?
Oh, youthful indiscretions. They're very bad. But at the time I thought I'd be a great artist.
The church, is it in Liège?
It's been gone for 7 years. It was demolished to build a new one.
What was its name?
The Church of Saint-Folien. The new one has the same name.
Were you married when you painted these?
Oh, no, I was 19 and studying at the academy. It was 10 years ago. Will you have a drink?
Oh.
Yes. Got some gin here. We must drink my daughter's health.
Yes, indeed.
Inspector?
Thank you.
Joseph.
Thank
well,
you.
to your daughter.
Thank you.
Well, forgive me for coming back to business, but you said you knew Jean Lecoq d'Anville.
A casual acquaintance, nothing more. I'm sorry, I can't help you further.
The suit had not been worn for several years. At least 6, maybe more.
It's nearly 10 years since we last met, and now he's married and got a little boy.
I was told he left Liège 10 years ago.
I was 19 and studying at the academy. It was 10 years ago.
These are the files you wanted, Inspector?
All the 10-year-old issues of the paper.
Actually, I brought you all the copies of the Meuse News, 9, 10 and 11 years old. I hope you find what you want.
Thank you. That's odd.
Something wrong?
Oh, look, these pages have been torn out.
How extraordinary.
February the 15th. All the news for that day is gone. Did anyone call this morning before me?
Well, yes.
Who?
Only Monsieur Van Damme.
You're the second visitor asking to see the police reports in 24 hours.
Who else has been here?
Oh, chap from here who's done all right for himself abroad.
Joseph Van Damme?
Oh, right. But he couldn't find what he wanted.
Yeah. There's a report missing.
What? Yeah, let me have a look. Yes, you're quite right. There's no report 240. Well, I'm damned.
I should like to see the town clerk. It's urgent.
Certainly, Chief Inspector. Good morning, Monsieur Van Damme. Can I help you?
It's nothing. I'll come back.
This way, Chief Inspector Maigret.
The mayor's copies of the police report. Thank God I got here first, Holmes. Van Damme must be cursing. February the 15th. Police Constable Lacasse of No. 6 Division was going on duty at 6 o'clock this morning when he observed a body hanging from the door knocker of the main door to the church of Saint-Follion. The dead man was Emile Klein, a house painter, 20 years of age, living at No. 7 Rue Poton-Noir.
Yes? Can I help you?
Did someone called Klein once live here?
Yeah, upstairs over the workshop. First floor, you can't miss it. It's the only door.
A few steps up, the banisters were missing. There was no light, and I could barely see. At the top, I struck a match. The door had no lock or handle. It was held to by a string tied to a rusty nail. I felt for my revolver and pushed open the door. I was dazzled by light streaming through a broken stained-glass window. On the floor were new unfinished chairs, glue, broken saws, and other bits and pieces from the workshop. But there were other things, too. An incomplete skeleton had been flung down on an old mattress. There was a Bible with a damaged cover. And on the wall, there was a painted slogan, "The Companions of the Apocalypse." And there, in the corner, in the middle of all this rubbish, was that well-shaved, well-dressed businessman from Bremen, Joseph Van Damme. Well, we were bound to end up here, weren't we?
How much?
What do you mean?
50,000 francs. 100. 200,000. Well, there's still time. You're not on official business. Here, give me a month, Inspector, please.
In other words, it happened in December.
What?
It's November now. In February, it'll be 10 years since Klein hanged himself. But you're only asking for a month.
I don't understand.
You understand all right. If it were Klein's death that was worrying you, if, for instance, he'd been murdered, the time limit wouldn't come into force till February, 10 years after his death. But you're only asking for a month. So it happened in December.
You won't find anything.
And why are you so frightened? Good evening, Monsieur Bellois.
You're alone.
Jeff's coming.
How is he?
Like a madman. I tried to calm him down, but he got away.
Has he got a gun? Did you all agree to offer me money? Yes, I see you did. And if I refused it, what were you going to do?
Jeff!
Drop that gun.
No. Go away, damn you! Go away!
Drop it!
I can't. Oh, God, to come to this.
Tell me about it.
Destroyed. In a few days. It took me 10 years to build up my life. I married. I worked to give my family a decent life. You saw it, but you didn't see how I'd worked, how I'd tried. Now it's all gone.
The Companions of the Apocalypse. Was that the name of your gang?
Yes.
Now tell me what happened 10 years ago.
I was at the academy. So was little Emil Klein. We all fancied ourselves in those days. Big hats, flowing cravats. We all thought we were Rembrandt. There were 6 of us. The others were students.
Bellois, Van Damme,
and Lecoq d'Anville.
Oh, that's only 5.
The 6th was Mortier.
Who was Mortier?
His father owned a butcher's shop. He had more money than the rest of us. We were all about 20. Van Damme was the oldest of us. He was 22. We used to talk our heads off and drink till we felt we were real geniuses. We used to plan the future. Lecoq d'Anville was to be a Tolstoy. Van Damme was to revolutionize political thought. We were all poets, painters, future heads of state. And we drank our wine from that skull.
Look at us now. I'm in business. Bellois in a bank. Jeff's a photo engraver.
Klein hanged himself on a church door. Lecoq shot himself in Bremen.
And Mortier?
Mortier was never really one of us.
Why?
He was rich and he was mean. We didn't drink, and when we got drunk he looked disgusted. He came here out of sheer curiosity. I think he loathed us, really. And we loathed him.
When Klein got drunk, he used to attack Mortier.
And what was Mortier's reaction?
Contempt.
I can't remember when we first began to talk about death.
Somebody quoted the Mandarin problem. You know, if all you had to do was press a button and kill a rich Mandarin in China to become his heir, would you do it?
It was just before Christmas. We had to be different, and we seized on this new idea. What is death, after all?
If life's nothing but chance, a skin disease on the earth's crust.
Would you dare kill?
When Klein was drunk, he yelled yes.
We felt we were on the brink of the abyss. But it was all just talk. Nobody got killed that night.
Then when?
Christmas Eve. We'd been drinking and singing. We were all half tight. Klein, the worst of the lot.
Listen, all of you! Listen to me!
Shut up, Emil.
Do you think I could kill?
Let's get some more bottles.
Good idea! You don't believe me! You don't think I could?
I want another drink.
Somebody's got to go out and get it.
Mortier.
Good God, what a mess.
Go and get us some drink.
You're drunk already, my friend.
Who cares? Get us some more drink, damn you.
I simply came in to say hello.
You came to have a look.
Yes.
Now you can fetch us some bottles.
Yeah. You're a drunken pig, Klein.
So? The pig says fetch some more bottles. It's all you're good for, parasite.
Oh, you're being a bore. It was much more amusing with the stuffy crowd I left at home.
Fetch us some drink.
Yes.
Some drink!
Get away, you wretched little sot!
Hey, watch out! He's got a knife!
Blood was pouring from a hole in Mortier's shirt front. But he wouldn't die. And he had a gun in his pocket. He was trying to get at it. Someone tried to grab the gun. He slipped in the blood and they rolled together on the floor. The other fellow must have gripped Mortier's throat. In any case, he hadn't long to live. I got in an awful mess.
Then it was you?
Yes. I had my hands round his throat. I wore that suit.
What did you do with the body?
The Meuse was in flood. We threw it in the river and saw it swept away. It was never found. People thought Mortier had run away. Klein wanted to give himself up. We had to stop him. 2 months later, he killed himself.
The suit?
Van Damme went and fetched me some clothes. I left the suit in the studio.
Did you all meet again?
No. One by one we left Liège, all except Jeff.
I stayed on.
drawing hanged men and church steeples. When did you see Lecoq again?
2 years ago. It was very unexpected. He turned up at the house. With the suit.
To blackmail you?
Yes, but not in the usual way. He demanded money, but he never used the notes. He burned them. Can you understand that? He burned them.
He thought I'd forgotten, but he was wrong. I simply wanted to live.
Had he changed?
In many ways, no. He had stayed still. But his life had changed. He told me he hadn't opened a book since it happened. He'd changed his name, he'd become a manual worker. He'd married. He said he adored his wife. But he'd left her, because when he was with her, he felt he was stealing.
Stealing what?
Happiness. It started as a game. A kid's game. But it wrecked our lives.
I didn't understand at first why he'd come. And then I found out. He looked at my house, my family, my bank. He thought it his duty to destroy it all.
He was the avenging angel. He went from one to another of us with that old suit.
My house is mortgaged. My wife's dowry is gone. She doesn't know, but there isn't a penny left.
And he burned the money. He burned it.
Then the other day, Van Damme wired us that he was dead. We all arranged to meet. And then you walked in. 10 years ago, immediately after the thing, I could have accepted it. But 10 years of life, of effort, of struggle. And now I've got a wife and children. I think I could have pushed you into the Marne, too. Because in less than a month, in 24 days, the time limit expires. And we're safe.
It's getting dark. I must go.
What?
I'm expected in Paris. Goodbye, gentlemen.
So you let them go?
I let them go. There were 5 children involved. You know, 10 more cases like that, and I'd have left the force. Because it would prove there's a God up there doing our job for us.
10. I shouldn't worry. There won't even be one.
In Maigret and the 100 Gibbets by Georges Simenon, translated by Tony White and adapted for radio by Betty Davis, Maigret was played by Maurice Denham and Simenon by Michael Goff. Joseph Van Damme, Andrew Sachs, Maurice Belloir, John Pullen, Jeff Lombard, Geoffrey Beavers, Madame Jeunet, Nicolette Mackenzie, Armand, Geoffrey Collins, Émile Klein, Michael Harbour, Willy Mortier, Paul Meyer. Other parts were played by Rod Beecham, Douglas Blackwell, Walter Hall, Bruce Beebe, Jonathan Scott, Michael Goldie, Irene Sutcliffe, and Anne Rosenfeld. The play was produced and directed by Betty Davis.
During wartime, Josephine Daunt, a special operations executive operative in France, and Dervish, her controller in London, were engaged in exciting and dangerous work. But in peacetime, they found themselves at a loose end. Though very different people, Daunt, Cambridge-educated, meticulous and inquisitive, and Dervish, practical, energetic and instinctive, they work well together and form a private detective agency, enlisting the help of Bill Mackey, a former private detective, whose son had been killed in the war while working for SOE.
The Wigmore Hall? Was that your idea or Josephine's?
Susan, what do you think?
Well, you may enjoy it, I suppose. What are they playing?
Oh, the usual bunch of instruments, I imagine. Not exactly my thing. Still, when you're courting, it's important to make compromises. Besides, I have a counter-proposal. Look what I found in the local rag.
Massage parlour offers discreet services.
No. Further down, here.
For sale, Triumph 450 with sidecar, good condition.
And a bargain at 30 quid. What do you think?
A motorbike? You and Josephine?
As a young man, I was all over the lowlands in two wheels. She may need a little encouragement, I agree, but spring has arrived. Fresh air beckons.
Black pudding and chips on fried bread. Not in here, it doesn't. It's like breathing lard. Tell me, Beryl, have you ever thought of opening a window or what about this, a pavement section?
What, go continental? Nah, that'd be downright dangerous, wouldn't it?
Dangerous? Why?
Stands to reason. When I have to throw some stroppy market porter out, the pavement's where he lands. Throw him off the pavement, he's in front of a trolley bus. Result, carnage.
I'd never thought of it like that.
Whose was the black pudding?
Don't you sometimes despair of the English, Bill?
It's my natural condition. But I think you're talking about something else.
Oh, I suppose I am. Spring always reminds me of Paris. The whiff of Gauloise, the copies of Sartre.
While Beryl's has more armpits than the Racing Post, I agree. But you'll get back there, Susan, don't worry.
Mrs. Dawn, good morning to you. Can I tempt you to a Beryl special?
Thank you, no. The delightful smell of your all-day breakfast is never far from my fire escape, and the effect on my appetite is not positive. Bill? Susan?
Just on our way up, Josephine?
Good, because there's an office to man and a visit to make. I've just received a phone call from a Madame Vivienne Brion.
From France?
No, South Kensington. We'll take the tube.
Gaunt and Dervish by Guy Meredith. With Anna Massey as Josephine Daunt and Frances Barber as Susan Dervish. Episode 2, Que reste-t-il de nos amours?
Please, come in, sit down. Make yourselves comfortable. You will take some coffee?
That smells like it's real.
As you know, in this part of London there is a strong French community. We appreciate the fine things of life, our food, our couture, par exemple. And we have our ways of obtaining them.
Oh, very convenient. But you said on the telephone, Madame Brion, that it was a question of a painting.
Ah, you turn to business immediately. Good. Yes, a painting that I wish to purchase goes on auction this afternoon. Here is the catalogue. I would like you to bid on my behalf.
Is there some reason why you can't attend the auction yourself, Madame Brion?
How old do you think I am, Miss Dervish?
Well, about...
As you can see, I live a simple, a quiet life. Such gatherings of people, such excitement is no longer for me.
But despite this simple life, it's the Monet marked here that you're interested in, is it not? The Louvre, viewed from the west.
Exactement. A beautiful piece, so I understand. I will pay your usual fee, perhaps a little more. It is important that I have someone I can trust.
And if I may ask, why did you come to us?
Ça, c'est simple. One asks around. Vous étiez dans la guerre, non?
I was an undercover agent around Paris. Josephine was my London contact. We worked for special operations.
Then you helped to liberate my country. That is all I need to know. I will give you a signed check. My limit for the painting is £500.
That's a lot of money.
I fear it will not sell for less. But at £500 you must stop. I am a widow. I cannot afford more. Will you undertake this task for me?
I don't see why not.
Excellent. I am so pleased. You have already risked your lives, not for la gloire, but for the freedom of others. I am sure I can rely on you. Another cup of coffee, perhaps?
Well, if you insist.
Perhaps not, Madame Brion. As you said before, if there is business to be done, we had better do it. Susan? Frosty? Who's Frosty?
You are. You were short with Madame Brion for a start.
Oh, well, she's about as false as they come. All this coquettish, how old do you think I am? She's about 50.
She looks well on it.
Which is precisely why she posed the question. And then this liberty, fraternity, equality nonsense. If she wants us to do a job, she could just ask us to do it.
A little flattery doesn't go amiss. It's the French way. Oh. But I don't think that's at the bottom of your malaise.
What do you mean by that?
When you came into Beryl's this morning, you already had a face like thunder. I admit the smell of frying drifting up the fire escape hardly puts one in the best of moods, but there's more to it than that, isn't there? Is it Bill and I having breakfast together?
Not in itself. It just... Well, it's just that one feels a little left out. Is he complaining?
About what?
Oh, I don't know. The Wigmore Hall, for instance.
No, absolutely not.
A relationship is a matter of shared interests. And if I can't share my interests with Bill...
Right. And vice versa, of course.
Of course.
Excuse me. Hello? Hello there.
Yeah?
Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah?
I phoned earlier about the Triumph 450.
Oh, yeah. Nice little bike. Very nice little bike.
May I see it?
No, I'm afraid not. It's gone, mate. Went, sold.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I'll show you something else, though. Got a few other numbers here. Mind yourself. Sorry, that's it. Now, don't mind the spare parts. They tend to accumulate. Fergie's bikes. I'm known from here to Clapham.
I must say, I had the impression that it was a private sale.
Well, it would be, wouldn't it, with just the two of us here? Now, what do you think of that?
Well, that's an Norton.
No, my friend. That's the Norton.
The Norton?
The Norton that Freddie Frith won the Manx TT on. Well, bits of it, anyway.
I must say...
Yeah, I know.
In my young days, I'd always fancied myself astride a Norton.
Of course you did.
Neckerchief stiff in the slipstream.
You don't want a sedate little Triumph in a sidecar, do you?
Well, I did.
Try her out, my friend. Take her on the road.
All done at £40. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
No great prizes achieved so far from the sound of things. When's the money up?
Next, I think. Yes, they're bringing it onto the podium. Madame Brion's right. It's a fine painting.
Yes, and that view. Oh, my goodness, it takes me back.
The next item is Lot 23, the Louvre, viewed from the west by Claude Monet. This painting, unseen for many years, forms part of a set of paintings of the museum, each from a different angle. I shall start the bidding at the reserve price of £60. Do I have £60?
Have you done this before?
60.
Of course, at Newmarket. Newmarket? My father used to take me to the bloodstock auctions.
I thought you knew something about art.
I do. I'm just not used to buying it this way. My father's technique was hold back at the beginning and come on strong in the later stages.
Did he get that from a jockey?
Susan, trust me.
£200, 200, 220, and 40, £260, 280. Do I have 300? Thank you, madam.
You did it. We're in.
320, 320. With you, madam, 340. Sir, 360. Madam?
Yes.
380. Sir?
Who is that man? Where is he, for that matter?
400. £400. Madam?
Yes. Over there, near the front, rather corpulent. Seems to be wearing a toupee.
420 to you, sir. Madam? 440.
Oh, yes, I see him. Well, I wish he'd give up.
460. Thank you, sir. With you, madam, for 480. 480. Sir, do I have 500?
If he bids this, we're finished.
£500. Thank you, sir. Any more than £500?
I'm afraid not.
Lot number 23 for £500 once, £500 twice.
Oh, what the hell. 510.
What are you doing? We were told to give up at 500.
I know, but I hate losing. I'll pay the extra tenner myself.
But what if it's not just an extra tenner?
Mr. White-Evans, I must object.
Now what's going on?
Mr. Langridge.
It's the man with the toupee.
This constitutes illicit bidding.
I beg your pardon?
I demand that these women be expelled from the sale room immediately.
Madame Brion, you can dress it up how you like. The fact remains we were tricked.
I think that is a little strong.
Well, I don't. It turns out that you were selling the painting, and our bidding for it was seen quite rightly as an attempt to raise its price.
You'd kept your name out of the catalogue, so we had no way of knowing.
Enfin, oui, mais...
It was extremely embarrassing to be unmasked in front of all those people, and we could hardly deny it. These professionals know how much a painting should go for, and when a pair of complete strangers come in, flashing their money around...
But if you had observed the limit I gave you...
That's hardly a defence.
In the end, the sale was annulled, and we've been banned from every auction house in the land. Not that that's a body blow. Anyway, here. We brought the painting back.
Goodbye, Madame Brionne.
Je suis désolée.
I'm sorry?
No, I am sorry. I should not have done it.
Good. Well, contrition is something.
If you knew what it cost me to part with the money in the first place, it is all I have left from mon pauvre Henri.
Your husband?
Yes. That and his Croix de Guerre.
Your husband was awarded the Croix de Guerre.
You need not sound so disbelieving, Mrs. Daunt. I have admitted to one deception. That does not mean I am always dishonest. Here.
Thank you. He was in the Resistance?
Yes, and that is how he died. This medal I would never part with, but the painting...
Why did you put it up for sale?
Why does anyone sell anything? Because I need the money. And given that I had to let it go, I wanted to make as much as I could. I admit now it was the wrong thing to do.
You're hardly going to find it easy to sell again. Not at auction, at any rate.
Then that is my punishment, n'est-ce pas? I must return it to the vault.
You don't keep it here in the flat?
No. Even at its proper value, that would be too much of a risk. It stays normally at the Banque Nationale in Mayfair. Somehow I must deliver it there.
Mayfair? Well, I suppose we could take it, couldn't we?
Susan!
Ah, vraiment? Cela serait très gentil.
If we took a taxi, it would be on our way after all.
Oh, very well.
Oh, the English. You are so kind. I can only thank you again.
What do you think, my friend? What do you make of that? When exactly did Freddie Frith win the Manx TT? 1937, but they didn't hold it during the war, so it's not that long ago, and you can feel the power, can't you? The cylinders, the pistons... Well, you can that. You want her, don't you? You must have her. How much? 40 nicker. 40? 35, and I'll throw in the goggles for free.
Does he ring a bell with you, Henri Brionne?
I didn't go over until 42.
No, but you might have heard of him.
If he wasn't operating in the Paris area. Besides, there were so many code names.
That's true.
And that was a genuine Croix de Guerre, if that's what you're thinking.
I don't know. Perhaps I've been too hard on Vivienne Brionne. Still, when George died, all he left me were debts.
And a good thing, too, or we might never have started up the agency. It's just in Berkeley Square, on the left, driver.
Right you are.
You'd be lunching at Harvey Nichols and complaining about the impossibility of finding maids, and I'd be... well, I don't know, really.
Back in Paris?
Would I? I'm not sure. Paris wasn't too kind to me in the last days.
You mean Marcel? One man's faithlessness doesn't taint a whole city, Susan.
There you go, ladies. The Banque National.
Thank you. We're just delivering this package, and then you can take us on to Covent Garden.
Righto. You want a hand?
No, we can manage, thanks.
What on earth? Give me that.
I certainly won't.
Josephine!
Painting.
Never mind about the painting. Are you all right?
That's a nasty bump. If only I'd been there.
If only you had, Bill.
What sort of vermin hits a woman with a blackjack? I'd have wrung his neck, stocking mask and all.
Actually, I didn't mean that. I meant that if you'd been there, I wouldn't currently have a sink with an oily tide mark and a kitchen full of rusting but unidentifiable pieces of motorbike.
No, it's a slight transmission problem, and believe me, I'm as disappointed as you are. Still, nearly had it fixed when you came back.
That's not quite the point, Bill.
Still no reply at Madame Brion's, I'm afraid.
Well, at least that gives us a little more time.
Us? An assault, a stolen work of art. Josephine, this is a police matter.
And no doubt the taxi driver will have called them. But we need to act independently.
It's a case of widow's nose, Bill.
What?
Look, there are two possible explanations for the theft of the Monet. One is simply that somebody wanted it badly enough to steal it.
Like who?
Like the man with the toupee we were bidding against at the auction. Hugh Langridge, wasn't it?
Fair enough. And the second explanation?
Madame Brion needs cash, she says. It's not going to be so easy to sell the Monet now, but undoubtedly it's insured, so...
A fraud.
All the more convincing if it's in apparently expert hands when it disappears, wouldn't you say?
But is there any evidence for that? I mean, she'd need friends in low places, at least.
Who's to say she hasn't got them? It's a question of watching her as closely and as quickly as possible.
Very well, let's get on to it. But look, if this Langridge man's a suspect for attacking you, I want to be the one to face him out.
Noble sentiments, Bill, and I thank you for them. But no, my assailant, though unidentifiable, was rather shorter on avoirdupois than Langridge.
Besides which, there's another problem. Madame Brion already knows us, so it would be that much more difficult to keep a covert eye on her.
I see.
Yes. So it may be that the bang on the head has affected my reason, but we'll tackle Langridge, and Bill, I'd like you to get into as close proximity as possible with a rather elegant French widow.
Stolen? The money was stolen.
You find that amusing, Mr. Langridge?
Well, there's a certain poetic justice in it, you have to admit. It was snatched from under my nose when the sale was annulled. Now you've lost it.
We didn't lose it. My colleague was hit with a cosh.
Well, that's too bad, obviously, but even so...
Mr. Langridge, do you own this gallery?
Yes, of course I do. That's why my name's on the fascia.
Then your response surprises me. It's hardly one of an art lover. I take it you deny any involvement in the theft.
Any involvement?
You knew the Monet was returned to Madame Brion and that we were working for her.
How dare you?
All right, keep your hair on.
I beg your pardon?
I don't think we need trouble you further. Except, do you specialise in French art, Mr. Langridge?
You can see it around the walls, can't you? Why do you think I wanted the Monet?
Quite. And it's currently good value, is it?
When the prices aren't artificially inflated, yes. Now, Mrs. Daunt, I'm a busy man. If you're here to buy, please look around. Otherwise, would you be...
Mr. Langridge?
Yes?
Telephone, long distance.
Oh, yes, all right, I'm coming. Perhaps you'd make sure that these ladies leave the premises.
With pleasure.
French widows in every room. Come on, Madame Brion, show yourself. Let's see exactly how elegant you are. Aha, well, no mistake there.
Taxi!
A suitcase, too. So where are you off to? At times like this, only two-wheel transport will do. Sleek, maneuverable, and unobtrusive. More or less.
What was all that about with Langridge? French art being good value?
Well, something that occurred to me while we were talking. When you were in Paris, what were the Germans doing?
Trying to kill me. It wasn't personal, though.
And how did they behave to the rest of the population?
However they liked. There was a lot of resentment, but a lot of docility, too.
What about looting?
I didn't see any, but I'm sure it went on. You mean the paintings? The ones in the gallery?
There must be something of a glut on the market. If I was an art dealer, a less than scrupulous one, that's the area I'd go for.
But surely if the paintings were stolen, it would be common knowledge.
Not necessarily. It depends what state the records are in. Do you still have contacts at the French embassy?
Yes, of course. Does this mean you think Langridge is the villain rather than Madame Brion?
At the moment, I'm not ruling anything out. I'll make you a list of everything I can remember from Langridge's walls. You can check it at the embassy.
And you?
Me? I want to see how stringent they are about that ban at Christie's.
station. That makes life a little more difficult. Let's see if I can discreetly...
Oi, you! You can't leave that motorbike there.
Marvellous.
Can't you read the sign? Taxis only.
So much for incognito and... Oh dear.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Yes. Hello.
You are following me?
No, not at all.
But you are outside my flat.
Well, perhaps, but there's such a thing as coincidence.
I am not convinced. Would you raise your goggles, please?
Raise my... of course, yes.
You have gentle eyes. Do you know that?
I haven't been told. Not for a while, anyway.
I think you work for those two ladies, don't you?
I couldn't actually confirm.
Please, tell them from me. They have helped me more than they could know for a cause as important as only they could imagine. Will you do that?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. You know, it feels strange living after all this time. J'ai peur. J'ai vraiment peur. Embrassez-moi.
I say... Right.
Merci. Adieu.
Platform 3 for the 5:35 boat train to Paris.
Sisley, Pissarro. This is quite a list of paintings.
But are they stolen? That's the point.
If only I could say. The war has been over for less than 2 years, Miss Dervish. That may seem a long time, but to establish ownership of everything that is missing...
So, Langridge could sell these paintings with impunity?
At the moment, yes. Believe me, I am sorry I cannot be more helpful.
No. That's all right.
You are settling into your new life here.
Yes, I suppose so. Look, there's just one other thing. Does the name Henri Briand mean anything to you?
Henri Briand? Yes, of course. He is a hero.
So he did win the Croix de Guerre. Can you tell me how?
Mrs. Daunt, it isn't simply that you're banned from here. I'm busy preparing an auction of 18th century furniture. Careful with that commode.
Yes, sir.
But if Christie's is so protective of its reputation, why do you allow a man like Langridge in here?
I don't know what you mean, a man like Langridge. If we have to insist on the credentials of every single dealer...
Tell me, do you think he was bidding for that Monet on his own behalf?
I have no idea.
This Ormolu clock, sir?
With the others?
You see, I don't think he was, or he wouldn't have gone so high.
What difference does it make?
Potentially a great deal. Tell me something. You said at the auction that the view of the Louvre forms part of a series of 4 paintings.
That's correct. There are 3 others from different compass points.
And where are those other 3 now?
Good question.
Thank you. What's the answer?
Well, the answer, Mrs. Daunt, is that neither I nor anyone else knows. Well, that may not be precisely true, but they have, to all intents and purposes, disappeared.
Disappeared? When?
Well, they were last seen in the spring of 1940 at the Louvre itself.
Shortly before the German occupation?
Precisely. Plans had been made to transport as much art as possible out of the way of the advancing army for obvious reasons. None of the Louvre views, however, reached the depot to which they were heading.
Then where did they go?
We cannot be sure. All we know is that they were accompanied by 2 art experts working with the Resistance. One was...
Let me guess. Henri Briand?
Exactly. When he left Paris, it was the last time he was seen alive. His body was found 1 week later.
And the other man? The other expert?
That we cannot be sure of.
But you must know something.
He had a code name. That is all I can tell you. He was known as Sylvester.
She caught the train to Paris.
It would seem so. I followed her as far as the barrier to the Dover train.
Did she turn round and crinkle your leathers again?
Actually, she seemed genuinely afraid. Determined, but afraid. And she spoke as though, I don't know, as though she wouldn't be coming back.
There you go, Mr. Mackey. A barrel special with an extra spam fritter.
Really, thanks.
Oh, Bill, how could you?
It's very nourishing.
Helped me more than they could know for a cause as important as only they could imagine.
Those were our words, aye.
The resistance is over, but there are still scores to be settled. If Henri Brion died at the hands of this man Sylvester...
Then Madame Brion might have gone to Paris to exact revenge. Agreed?
Only if she's managed to establish a trail.
Exactly. That must be why she put the painting up for sale. If Sylvester's got the other 3, he'll be after the 4th in the set. She wanted him to break cover.
But he didn't. He didn't come to the Christie's auction. He bid via Langridge.
So Langridge must know who Sylvester is.
Most likely.
If he does, I'll wring it out of him. But what about Madame Brion?
What about her?
Well, if she's walking into danger, should we really abandon her?
You really are rather taken with our French friend, aren't you, Bill?
Not at all.
Bill's right. If there's a top-line traitor left over from the resistance, he's not going to give in easily. Plus, if revenge is in the air, I'm not immune to it.
What do you mean?
There's an 8 o'clock train from Victoria which connects with the sleeper from Calais. We've just got time to eat first. Beryl, 2 more specials.
Coming up.
Oh, no, not for me. But Paris? Susan, are you sure?
You'll need to pack an overnight bag.
Paris. Oh, what on earth to wear? Yes?
Josephine.
Oh, Bill, come in.
Look, I don't know how to put this, but you're not really jealous, are you?
Jealous? Of whom?
Of Madame Brion, of course.
Of Madame Brion? Bill, the idea.
Oh, good.
As if I would be. I feel quite insulted.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean...
I don't make comparisons of that sort. With someone who's had every opportunity to pamper herself. I'm a working woman, Bill. I don't have the time or the occasion for beauty salons or fancy cosmetics or...
Right, got you. So long as that's clear, then. Oh, and listen, about the motorbike. I was perhaps a little ahead of myself, assuming you might want to ride pillion round the country.
It's all right, Bill. It may not be my preferred mode of transport, but I'm flattered by your assumption of togetherness.
Well, I'm enjoying our renewed time with one another.
Are you? So am I, Bill.
Good. I'm not sure I should be sending you off to France alone, though.
But I'll have Susan with me.
I meant both of you alone. I should come with you.
No, Bill. It's better that someone stays and tackles Langridge.
Perhaps you're right. Take care of yourself.
I will, Bill. I will.
Susan.
Oh, Susan. Oh, Susan.
What? Yes. What is it?
You were having nightmares, I think.
Yes.
I told you Beryl's special was a mistake.
Oh.
But look, we're nearly there.
The Eiffel Tower.
That's right. Come on, let's get ourselves spruced up.
The Hugh Langridge Gallery. Hello? Anybody at home? I'm going to steal your paintings.
What do you want?
To speak to Mr. Langridge. My name's Bill Mackey.
Doesn't matter what your name is. He's not here.
And you would be?
None of your business. Now sling your hook.
Now then, young man, manners.
Oh, let me go.
Is that a cosh in your pocket, or are you just... Good Lord, it is a cosh in your pocket.
Get off!
Something tells me you're the young man who attacked my colleague, and I thought the art world was full of porcelain-featured intellectuals. Now, where's Mr. Langridge?
I told you, he's not here.
And where exactly is not here?
He's gone. He's gone abroad.
Abroad?
Oh, I just want to drink it up. The whole atmosphere.
The Latin Quarter, the Rive Gauche, Saint-Sulpice. It hasn't changed, has it?
No bombs, that's the thing. Apart from the ones we planted.
Et deux croissants.
Merci. No, it hasn't changed at all. But more to the point, if Madame Prion is here stalking Sylvester...
That gives us 2 people to find out of 3 million. Well, we might assume that Sylvester's still connected with the art world. Even so, it's a needle in a haystack. Unless...
Unless what?
If Sylvester was a turncoat, there'll be people who remember him.
People from within the Resistance?
If they were highly enough placed.
And how would we find such a person?
I don't think that would be too difficult, would it?
You mean Marcel?
Yes.
That's not why I wanted to come to Paris.
I know. I know. But it makes sense, doesn't it? And you could find him quite easily.
I'm not sure.
You could. You know you could.
Will you come too?
Me? No. I think this is a reunion you should undertake alone. I'll go for a stroll. A pity we didn't bring Bill, really. I could have shown him the sights.
Ferry, at last. Oh no, don't raise the ramp! Come on, you wretched machine, faster!
Qu'est-ce que vous prenez, madame?
Je ne sais pas. Un anis, s'il vous plaît.
Un anis, comme d'habitude.
Marcel?
Un anis. Et pour monsieur?
La même chose.
Autre anis.
So, how have you been?
Up and down. And you?
Up and down, yes. I was surprised to hear from you, and more surprised that you were here in Paris.
It was an unexpected visit. Your wife and family?
They are well, thank you.
Autre anis.
Good. So, water?
Did I ever?
No. Then, santé.
Santé. It is really very good to see you again. I think about you a lot.
Well, that's nice.
How we fought together, how we...
Yes, but I have a new life now, Marcel. A new life and a new business. And I need a name from you.
A name? What sort of business are you in?
Just at the moment, the treachery business. Who was Sylvester?
Sylvester?
Resistance member. Maybe turned collaborator. Helped to evacuate the Louvre. Been lying low or maybe gone back to his previous identity.
Sylvester.
You know, don't you?
Susan, look around you. The men and women in this bar, they too are trying to get on with their lives. In Britain it is easier. You were not overrun. There was no division, no sense of shame. Here we want to forget the past.
We or you?
I already told you. You are in my mind all the time.
As a historical fact, perhaps. You also told me you would leave your wife.
Yes, I did. And so I am a traitor too, is that it? Yes, that is it. I'm sorry. I can only apologize.
No. That's not all you can do. You can make it up to me. Tell me who Sylvester is.
You are pulling at the strings of the establishment, Susan. They may unravel.
Tell me.
Very well. But before I do, I want you to know... I think about you because I still have feelings for you. And every day, I have to deny those feelings. Every day of my life.
The Louvre.
Oui, le Louvre. C'est là, madame. C'est magnifique, n'est-ce pas? Mais c'est fermé aujourd'hui.
What? Oh, yes. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
De rien.
The Louvre. Viewed from the west. Just like the painting. One can see why a collector would cherish the view. Oh, good Lord.
Mrs. Donder, you are surprised to see me. Not as surprised as I am to see you. But then, of course, you are a professional.
How do you mean?
Your steps were drawn to this spot by instinct, perhaps. You knew I would be here. But this is a dangerous place. You must leave immediately.
Not until you tell me who Sylvester is and what you intend to do.
You know the answer to the second question. I will kill him the same way he killed Henri, because Henri knew he would steal the paintings and had managed to smuggle one to me.
Were you at Christie's during the auction? You must have been.
Yes. At the back. Somewhere behind you. Of course, it was a disappointment when Longridge bid for the painting, but at least I knew that Longridge was a link to Sylvestre.
And somehow you've persuaded him to reveal Sylvestre's identity. Yes, but why would he do that?
Because I told him where he could steal the painting. From yourself and your colleague. I apologize once again, but I needed to find Sylvestre.
Go on, then. Who is he?
This will amuse you. Look at the sign. Here. Le Louvre. Directeur, René Dubois.
I don't understand. Oh, no, wait a minute. Sylvester. Latin, silver, a forest. And Dubois. Wood again.
Almost poetic, isn't it? And I have Henri's old gun. That is poetic too, wouldn't you say?
Vivian, give it to me.
Please. Is this your British notion of fair play? You think we should arrange a duel?
Give me the gun.
Let me go. You want it to go off?
She's right, you know.
Comment?
Guns can be dangerous things, which is exactly why I'm carrying one. So hand me yours, Madame Brionne, and let me invite you to a private viewing. Such a privilege, don't you agree? One's own private key to the Louvre, staff entrance only and after hours, but what can one expect? So many masterpieces. Delacroix, Poussin, David.
Where are you taking us?
You want to meet Dubois, don't you? Who am I to stand in your way? Left here.
You've been a step ahead of her all along, haven't you? You always intended to lure her here.
Indeed we did. I'm afraid Madame Brionne knows far too much. The falling out over the stolen paintings, Henri Brionne's defiance in hiding the last one, sending it to England with her.
I don't need a gun. I will kill Dubois with my bare hands.
Will you? I don't think so. No, I really don't think so. Here's his office. Open the door, would you, Madame Brionne?
Avec plaisir, le sale meurtrier.
Monsieur le Directeur, may I present Madame Daunt and Madame Brionne?
Il est mort.
I'm afraid so, as a doornail. As a dodo.
You shot?
Indeed I did. But it's not going to look that way. Because now I have Madame Brionne's fingerprints on the door handle.
And you can keep all 4 of the monnets for yourself.
They do go beautifully together. And not so beautiful that I wouldn't want to sell them, of course.
Vous êtes pire que lui.
I certainly hope so. By the way, Mrs. Daunt, where is your colleague?
She's, seeing a friend.
Really? Miss Dervish, do join us. And please don't hesitate, or I shall shoot Mrs. Daunt rather earlier than I intended to.
Sorry, Josephine. I should have been more suspicious when I found the side entrance unlocked.
I assumed you two wouldn't be parted for long. And disposing of you both is going to be rather a chore. Still, first things first. Madame Brionne, here is the gun with which you killed your arch-enemy. Take it, please. Go on.
You make fun of me. Oh.
It's no longer loaded, of course. I'm simply making sure your prints are once again nicely placed. And with the other gun, as you're about to realize, Monsieur Dubois killed you. And this one, naturally, is loaded.
Don't. Not in cold blood.
Cold blood is my speciality. Madam Daunt, stand clear, please. I'll be with you in a moment. What on earth?
It's Bill!
It's who?
You're right. Bill, we're here!
Whoever the hell you are, come here and I'll finish you off! Oh, will you really? Have to be more accurate than that against a moving target! Missed by a mile, Hendrik!
I have to say once again, Bill, you cut it rather fine.
It wasn't so much the trip from London. I took a wrong turn by the Mona Lisa. Hugh Langridge, however, was unavoidable.
The police will get the full story from his hospital bed.
Will they return the bike, though? That's what's worrying me. They said they might have to impound it as material evidence.
We can only hope and pray. Susan? You're very quiet. Drinking up the atmosphere of the Boul' Mich'?
Sort of. You know, you were right. The real reason I wanted to come to Paris was to see Marcel again.
I didn't say that.
But you thought it.
And now?
And now it's over. Definitively.
Forgive and forget. That would probably have been a good motto for Vivian Brion, too.
Amazing that Dubois was director of the Louvre and still wanted the monies for himself.
There's no end to greed, even when it comes to culture. Oh, damn!
What's the matter?
I've just remembered. Those tickets for the Wigmore Hall. They were for tonight.
Oh, that's too bad.
But there's no end to greed, even when it comes to culture. Why don't we just enjoy what we've got around us? Paris.
Dans un nuage, le cher visage de mon passé.
In Episode 2 of Daunt and Dervish by Guy Meredith, Josephine Daunt was played by Anna Massey and Susan Dervish by Frances Barber. Bill Mackie by Sean Scanlon, Vivian Brion by Sian Thomas, and Hugh Langridge by Roger Hammond. Marcel Harry Myers, Beryl Elizabeth Bell, Andrew White-Evans Thomas Wheatley, and the motorbike salesman Kim Wall. The director was Colin Guthrie.
Hello there, Mr. Ferguson. Yeah, remember me? The Norton.
Yeah.
I was wondering, could I trade it in?
But trade it in? How faithless can you be?
Well, the thing is...
I'll tell you what. I've got a Motor Guzzi back here. It's a sweet little Italian number. Well, I take it from 0 to 80 before you can say your own name and the handling.
I was thinking more of cash.
No, wait till you feel her, my friend. Take her out on the road, open her up.
Next up is The Adventure of the Pimlico Poisoner, a radio adventure starring Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's famous detective, in which a broken leg is no barrier to leading the hunt for a real-life demon of Victorian crime, a man whom, it is said, claimed at the very moment of his execution that he was Jack the Ripper.
Come here. What you say your name was again?
Naylor. Clam Naylor.
That's a funny name. Oh, good. Oh, I've never been out with a doctor before. Still, you know how to give a girl a good time. I'll say that for you.
I'm pleased you've enjoyed yourself, my dear.
Here, where are we going? I don't live down here.
It's quieter this way.
Oh, yeah? Well, that depends what you're up to, doesn't it? Well, You gonna kiss me then, or do you want to?
I was wondering, how do you feel now?
How do I? Oh, my headache. Oh, that's gone, yeah. Stuff you give me to the trick, all right.
Good. I think perhaps you'd better have some more.
Oh, no, I don't need any more. I feel all right, I tell you.
Come along now, doctor's orders.
Ooh, well, in that case...
That's better.
There. Here, do you always carry this stuff round with you?
I get headaches myself.
Oh, well, it's a good thing you're a doctor, then. I mean, if you can't look after yourself, who can you look after, eh? Now then, wasn't you about to, do something?
I have to go now.
Hey, what do you mean?
Shall we meet tomorrow?
Oh, here, don't go.
About 7 o'clock? The Three Feathers?
But what about... Oh, God. Silly old sod. Might as well go home, I suppose. Oh, God.
We present William Chubb as Sherlock Holmes and Crawford Logan as Dr. Watson in The Adventure of the Pimlico Poisoner.
As a medical man, the great affection in which I have always held my friend Sherlock Holmes is clouded only by the complete disregard he had for his physical well-being. However, I have chronicled such circumstances far too often for my readers not to be aware of a remarkable constitution which, despite frequent abuse, sustained him through periods of intense mental and physical exertion that would have wrecked many a lesser being. Nevertheless, the late summer of '91 was one of those rare occasions when the criminal element of our great metropolis had good reason to breathe more easily and operate with comparative impunity. For Sherlock Holmes, the world's first consulting detective, scourge of their nefarious professions, blight on their illegal activities, was convalescing.
Watson? Huh? Would you be so good as to shut the window?
Of course. Sorry, old boy. Didn't realize you were in a draft. Should have spoken up sooner. Can't have you taking a chill, can we? Shh. Something wrong?
A moment, Watson. Yes, definitely. 5/16 of an inch.
5/16?
Over a gap of 5/32 of an inch.
What are you doing, Holmes?
Just an experiment. By listening to the noise that my knuckle makes when I strike this wretched cast of mine, I can establish its precise thickness at any given point. Well, you see where I've managed to scrape a hole through the plaster with my pocket knife?
Yeah.
That was my reference, a standard to which I could work. Now, after considerable practice, I can not only tell you if there is a gap between flesh and casing, but precisely what that gap is, give or take a 32nd of an inch.
Really? Any particular reason for this?
Well, either the plaster or my flesh has contracted.
I meant, is there any scientific reason for your experimentation?
None whatsoever.
Then, if you don't mind my asking, just why are you...
Because I'm bored, Watson. For 5 weeks I have lain on this couch waiting for my broken limb to heal. 5 weeks of stagnation, impotence, frustration, and boredom. Oh.
It hasn't been easy, you know.
I've done my best to amuse you.
My dear Watson, please forgive me. You have worked miracles, and I couldn't be in better hands, and of course my present predicament was entirely of my own making.
You mustn't blame yourself. It was an accident, old boy. Could have happened to anyone.
To descend in haste from a hansom cab in pursuit of justice is understandable. To do so without checking if payment was available, the height of stupidity.
Let's see if we can't find something to occupy you then. Read the personal column yet?
Twice.
Well, how about, the game of cards?
You know my views on that particularly mindless pastime.
I don't know what to do for you, Holmes, I'm sure.
In which case, might I suggest you go down to Mrs. Hudson's cellar, where you may find a brace and bit amongst the tools she keeps there.
Brace and bit? What on earth for?
I have a mind to test my plaster cast hypothesis.
You mean to drill through?
Can you think of a better way of verifying my measurements?
I forbid it. You could do yourself all kinds of damage.
Perhaps a little pain would prove diverting.
Really, Holmes?
Just my joke, Watson. You're quite right, of course. I shall just have to wait until the cast is removed. Which is in 2 weeks, I believe.
3.
Then, in the meantime, I had better put in some target practice. Pass my revolver, would you? I fancy SH on the wall over there would prove a most effective decoration.
Mrs. Hudson warned you about that last time.
Aha! The threat of eviction. Most unlikely. I really am an excellent tenant. Besides, what better protection than having one of the best marksmen in London under your roof whilst you sleep? All right, no target practice. Then, I'm afraid, Watson, there's nothing for it. It'll have to be the syringe.
No.
Be good enough to pass it to me, would you?
I don't know where it is.
In the chimney where you hid it.
How do you know?
Perfectly simple.
There was soot on my hand.
You're far too wily an old bird for that.
What then?
A purely natural reaction to my mentioning the word syringe. You glanced at the chimney.
I'm not going to fetch it for you.
Quite right. Why should you encourage me in such an abominable practice? Which means I shall have to fetch it for myself. Hand me my stick, would you?
No.
You really wish to see me crawl to my addiction? Ah, a reprieve.
Yes.
For both of us.
Just what you need, Holmes. A visitor.
I doubt it.
Lestrade, perhaps.
Shouldn't think so.
Your brother, then?
Mycroft never leaves the Diogenes Club.
I'm sure it's someone for you.
I hope you're right. For both our sakes.
Oh, I swear these stairs never used to be as steep as this.
Good morning, Mrs. Hudson.
Oh, they take your breath away, they do.
Thought I heard a ring at the door.
Oh, gentleman to see Mr. Holmes. Gave me his card.
Thank you. Ask him to come up, would you?
Oh, very well.
It is someone for you, Holmes.
The butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker?
His card.
Let me see. Well now, Earl M. Klein, detective. Do you think he wishes to consult me, Watson?
Undoubtedly.
An unusual name. Yet I cannot recall Mr. Klein in any investigative capacity.
You will see him.
Of course. Who knows what diversion the possessor of such an unusual name may provide?
Notwithstanding my delight that here at last was some possible stimulation for Holmes' extraordinary mind, I could not help feeling a certain apprehension as our visitor came up the stairs to meet me. Well over 6 feet in height, heavily built, with a massive lower jaw that protruded in an aggressive fashion. Despite a thick, luxuriant moustache, he was almost totally bald, with just a few strands of limp, gingerish-coloured hair that hung down over the back of his neck like a fringe. To complete this bizarre appearance, his spectacles had been fitted with darkened lenses, thus making it impossible to determine the true expression of his countenance.
You must be Dr. Watson.
Indeed, sir.
I have been looking forward to meeting you for many years.
Oh?
America is not so far away that we haven't heard of Sherlock Holmes's most able assistant. Delighted to make your acquaintance.
And I yours, Mr. Klein.
And, where is the great man?
In here, if you would care to...
With pleasure.
Mr. Klein.
Forgive me if I don't get up.
Not at all. Sherlock Holmes, I am honored, sir. Honored to meet the greatest man in our profession. Let me shake you by the hand.
A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Klein.
But one that hardly matches mine, sir. Why, you are a legend. A living legend.
You have been in England long?
Less than a month. I would have come sooner, but, well, professional duties. I'm sure you understand.
Of course. Do take a seat, Mr. Klein.
Why, thank you, sir. Would you gentlemen mind if I smoke?
Not at all. A habit I often indulge in myself.
You'll find an ashtray on the table beside you.
Thank you.
I see you smoke McCracken's number 2 leaf. A little mild for my taste.
Mr. Holmes, you amaze me. This cigarette came from my case. How on earth did
Every
you...
profession has its store of secrets, Mr. Klein. But of course, you are well aware of that. Now, what was it you wished to see me about? I presume it is a professional matter.
Indeed it is, sir. And if you permit me, I'll come straight to the point. No sense in beating about the bush, as they say.
Quite.
The Pimlico murders.
What about them?
A nasty business.
Undoubtedly.
2 murders within a week and a few hundred yards of each other.
To the point, Mr. Klein.
Public confidence in the official force is low. There are rumors that we have another Jack the Ripper on our hands.
So what is your proposition?
You're ahead of me, Mr. Holmes. But I would expect no less. My proposition is this. We work together. We solve the Pimlico murders, bring the criminal to justice, and share in the generous fees your government will willingly pay to have this matter resolved.
You flatter me, Mr. Klein. But you must be aware that I already have the good doctor here as my partner. I must, therefore, decline.
Come now, Holmes. This is exactly the opportunity you've been waiting for.
I think I may be the best judge of where my best opportunities lie,
But
Watson.
surely, with Mr. Klein out in the field, as it were, and you here to contribute analysis and deduction, why...
We'd have the rope round the villain's neck in no time at all.
Exactly.
Well, Holmes, what do you say?
Simply this. Be kind enough to shut the door as you leave.
For one agonizing moment, I feared the American detective was steeling himself to spring at Holmes. His huge hands whitened against the wooden arms of his chair, and his lips tightened into a malevolent, bloodless slit. I was reminded of the deadly reptiles I had encountered during my Afghan service, and began to calculate the time it would take me to cross the room to the drawer in which I kept my old service revolver.
Very well, Mr. Holmes. Have it your way. I'm sure we will meet again.
I'd say there was no doubt of that, Mr. Klein. By the way, do you intend to resume your walk in the park when you leave here?
How on earth did
Had you been
manage-
lying in the same prone position as myself, you would undoubtedly have observed the traces of damp grass and leaves that have adhered to the soles of your boots. The pavements of our capital streets are not noted for their vegetation. Good day to you.
Splendid, Mr. Holmes. Splendid. Your reputation is fully justified. Should you change your mind, please be good enough to contact me through the personal column of the Times. You know, I almost wish I was not on the side of law and order. You would make a splendid adversary.
Strange fellow.
And a somewhat dangerous one, I shouldn't wonder.
Really?
Certainly no more a detective than Mrs. Hudson a surgeon. Although when you consider the way she wields the knife when cutting our Sunday roast, perhaps I do her an injustice.
He's an impostor, then?
Most certainly. That the possessor of such a singular appearance should choose to enter a profession where anonymity can be considered a distinct advantage is doubtful. That he should fail to see how I could deduce that he smoked McCracken's number 2 leaf, highly questionable. And that the only way he can be contacted is via the personal column of the Times, utterly preposterous.
Yes, I had my doubts. I must say, Holmes, he was impressed by that cigarette business.
Perfectly simple.
Oh, to you, perhaps. Perhaps you'd care to...
In my experience, American visitors to this country invariably prefer to smoke American cigarettes. As far as I'm aware, the only stockists of American cigarettes in London are Mulrain and Forsyth in Regent Street, and the only brand they stock is McCracken's number 2 leaf. Well?
Oh, yes. As you say, perfectly simple.
So, Watson, It seems we have something worthy of our talents at last.
The Pimlico murders. But I thought a few days ago you didn't seem particularly interested.
That was before we met Mr. Earl M. Klein.
Oh, I see. That is, no, I don't see.
You know my methods, Watson. Use them. And I recommend that you start from the premise that Mr. Klein may not be all that he seems. In the meantime, perhaps you would be so kind as to remind me of the facts of these Pimlico killings again. I presume you still have the newspaper clippings?
Yes, they're over here. Ready for filing.
Then you have my undivided attention. Please proceed.
Well, now, it would seem that on the evening of 13th of October last, Ellen Dodsworth, aged 19, was seen strolling along the Vauxhall Bridge Road. Suddenly she pitched forward onto the pavement as if paralysed. On being taken to her rooms, she developed convulsions and began screaming in agony. During the brief intervals of her torment, she gave a somewhat garbled account of being given a drink out of a bottle with white stuff in it by a tall man in a top hat earlier that evening. She died before reaching St. Thomas's Hospital, and the subsequent analysis of the contents of her stomach revealed the presence of strychnine. Not very pleasant, eh, Holmes? Holmes?
The facts of the second murder, Watson.
Very well. That took place, yes. 4 nights later in the Belgrave Road. Before her death, the victim, who's not yet been named, also referred to a tall man, a silk hat, and a bottle of white stuff from which he had encouraged her to drink. She was able to add, however, that the man had described himself as a doctor and had peculiar cross eyes. The cause of death was later established as strychnine poison. What are the police doing to catch this fiend? Has Jack the Ripper re-emerged in Pimlico, that sort of thing? Well, I'm afraid that's all, Holmes. Not much to go on.
You surprise me, Watson.
How's that?
Based on what we know, I have already explored several speculative avenues, some of which need only the addition of a few facts to establish their validity.
Really? How did you,
Mr. Klein! Consider this, Watson. Why should an individual with such an obviously high regard for his own abilities invite me to be his partner against crime? And while you are considering, perhaps you would be so kind as to open our door to the visitor who rang a few moments ago. I hear his steps on the stairs.
It's funny how you can go for days without a caller and then... Oh, Lestrade, good morning.
Morning, Doctor. Is he in?
Do come in, Inspector.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Holmes. How's the leg today?
Still weighed down by the wonders of modern surgery, but hardly worth the mention. After all, men of our profession rely more on mind than limb, although there are occasions when the latter can be useful.
Oh, yes, whatever you say, Mr. Holmes. I wouldn't like to be without the use of one of my pins, I can tell you.
Then why not rest them on that chair whilst you tell me the purpose of your visit?
Thank you.
Not another Pimlico poisoning, I trust?
Oh, far from it, Mr. Holmes. Almost wish that were the case. At least it might give us a clue and put us on the track of these madmen.
If I can be of any assistance, you know you only have to ask.
Yes. Well, the truth is, I just don't know which way to turn. We're no nearer catching the poisoner than we are flying to the moon. The trouble is, the longer it goes on, the more likely it is there'll be people trying to copy him. Well, it always happens. The public want results. They want him caught.
How can I be of service? Do you have any new information?
Well, we still only know what's been reported by the press, and that's scant enough. I tell you, Mr. Holmes, we're dealing with the most dangerous type of criminal here. A maniac with no motive. And there's no telling when he's going to strike again.
Then between us, Lestrade, we will do our best to ensure that will not occur. You have my word on that.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Holmes. I don't suppose... what I'm trying to say is...
You want to know if I've come to any conclusions concerning the Pimlico poisoning?
Exactly.
Nothing definite as yet, Lestrade. But I have certainly formulated an opinion, and if that opinion can be substantiated by fact, then I believe we may be able to flush your maniac out into the open.
Well,
I take it I can rely on your full cooperation.
the whole force is at your disposal, Mr. Holmes. You've only to say the word.
Which may come sooner than you think.
We'll be ready.
Excellent.
Right. Well, I'll say good day then, and once again, thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Watson will see you out.
Right. Oh, there was something else. This note came in this morning. That's from a crank, of course. Get them all the time on this sort of case. I thought you might find it amusing.
Thank you, Lestrade. A little diversion would be most welcome.
Yes.
I'll see you out then.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Well, good day to you, Lestrade.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Good day.
Hey, you've cheered him up, Holmes. Holmes?
Well, well. Our man certainly has the cheek of the devil. Lestrade was right about our dealing with a maniac. Listen to this. I am willing to give you such assistance as will bring the murderer of both Ellen Dodsworth and Matilda Clover to justice, providing your government is willing to pay me £100,000.
Good heavens!
I know his identity. Yours faithfully, Liam Lenser, consulting detective. What do you make of that, Watson?
I'd say you'd better watch out for yourself, Holmes. Too many consulting detectives can't be good for business.
Nothing like healthy competition, Watson. Even from a murderer.
You mean it's not one of them? How do you know?
Again, apply my methods. There can be no doubt about it.
Very well. Let's see now. It's common enough paper. Could have been purchased at any one of 100 stationers.
The name, Watson. What do you make of that?
Liam Lenser. Bogus, of course. Probably Irish.
Look at this. I've written the name Liam Lenser on my cast. So much more convenient than one's shirt cuff. And underneath, Earl M. Klein, the other detective. They are, of course, one and the same person. No doubt you see the connection now.
I'm not sure.
Even when I point out there are the same number of letters, 10 in each name?
I see. But then... So has John Watson. And I doubt if even you could find a connection between Klein, Lenser and myself.
Touché, Watson. And an apology. I can hardly expect your mind to be filled with the sort of trivia I have been foolish enough to cram into mine. Let me explain. Horatio Nelson, for example. In anagrammatic form, he could be read as Honor est a Nihilo. Similarly, Flit on Cheering Angel is the relatively simple transposition of Florence Nightingale. Now do you see?
Yes, of course, an anagram. Liam Lenser, Earl M. Klein, one and the same. No doubt about it.
Quite so. But of even greater significance is the intriguing possibility that both may be derived from the real name of the person responsible for these Pimlico poisonings.
But he was here, in this very chair. Why didn't we apprehend him?
Well, I am hardly in a position to apprehend anyone. And despite your proven courage, Watson, I feel you are no match for our adversary's undoubtedly superior strength. Mm-hmm. Besides, at the time, I was still not sure he was our man, despite his darkened lenses and the reference by one of the victims to a man with cross eyes.
But you are sure now?
Oh, yes. The letter from Liam Lenser, Earl M. Klein's alter ego, refers to the second victim by name when that had been specifically withheld from the press. However Lestrade failed to spot that, I shall never know.
So, the first error on the part of the murderer.
Oh, hardly an error, Watson. We are dealing with an arrogant and dangerous man. Very dangerous indeed. And one who wants to play games. Very well. We shall oblige him.
It was obvious that the key to the murderer's true identity lay in devising further anagrams from the letters of the names he had already utilized. So, for the next few minutes, we busied ourselves, Holmes on his plaster cast and I on a page from my pocketbook, in compiling a list of all the forenames we could extract from those letters: Alec, Len, Ian, and so on. At each name, Holmes would concentrate for a few moments, comparing it with some mental list he had stored away. But as each, in turn, failed to register in that immense filing cabinet locked in his brain, I began to suspect that, for once, he was pursuing a false trail. However, as we began working on permutations that began with the letter N, and I myself had got no further than N-E...
We have him, Watson! Neil! Double L. Neil Cream. Quickly now, pass me the index.
I realized at once that Holmes had been able to make the vital connection by relating the name to some press cutting he had filed away concerning the man. I knew that the entry of Neil Cream into that vast index of people and events could only be for something sensational.
Now, let me see. Campbell, the St. Albans Strangler, and Cochrane. Wonderful forge of that man, a true artist. Cracksman, Cradley. Here we are. Cream. Yes, now I remember.
What's that, Holmes?
A series of newspaper items that make up a veritable catalogue of crime. A potpourri of poisoning, you might say. Listen to this. September 1870, Edmonton, Alberta. Fellow student, Emily Baxter, found dead in Cream's room. Autopsy, traces of strychnine. Verdict, suicide. 1874, February, McGill College, Montreal. Having qualified as a doctor. What do you think of that, Watson?
It would never have happened in my day.
Having qualified as a doctor, body of waitress, 5 months pregnant. Found behind surgery, bottle of chloroform beside her. Verdict, administered by some person unknown.
Extraordinary. Fellow had the luck of the devil.
January 1881, advertised revolutionary cure for epilepsy, seduced wife of sufferer when she came to surgery, sent her home, husband died 3 weeks later, strychnine poison.
Why, the man's a maniac. How could they possibly set him free after that?
It seems they didn't. Illinois Gazette, 13th July 1881, poisoner given life sentence. Following a trial lasting for 17 days, Neil Cream was found guilty of murder and sentenced to imprisonment for life in the Illinois State Penitentiary. Rejecting prosecuting counsel's demand for the death penalty, Judge Josiah P. Fairweather stated there was reasonable doubt as to whether the fatal dose had actually been administered by Cream. That's our man, Watson.
Hardly, old chap. Not when he's serving life imprisonment several thousand miles away.
Then he's either escaped or been set free. Either way, Neil Cream is here in London. I'd stake my reputation on it.
I suppose...
Would you mind playing errand boy, Watson?
No, of course not.
Then I have 2 tasks for you. Firstly, go to Scotland Yard, present my compliments to Inspector Lestrade, and ask him to send an official cable to the Governor of Illinois State Penitentiary inquiring after the present whereabouts of Neil Cream.
Right, I'll go straight away. Let's put my coat on. A bit of a nip in the air. Where else do you want me to go, Holmes? Holmes?
How do you think Alec would suit me?
I don't quite follow.
Yes, Alec. Well, it doesn't carry quite the same weight as Sherlock, of course, but I like it. That leaves N-I-L-R-E-M. Milner. Alec Milner. What do you think, Watson?
Is that another of those anagrams?
Indeed it is.
Well, how about Alec Merlin?
Merlin? Capital, Watson. The name has certain magical properties, which may well work in our favour. Yes, Alec Merlin. Your pocketbook, Watson. Unless you'd rather take this plaster cast of mine all the way to the offices of the Times.
Oh, I see. No, of course not. There you are.
Thank you. Now then, O.M. Klein, need demonstration of your abilities. Lupus Street. 10 o'clock tonight.
What?
Alec Merlin. There. That should flush him out. Make sure that gets into tomorrow's personal column, would you? Oh, and, Watson, ask Lestrade if he could possibly spare me some time this afternoon. We have some arrangements to make before we meet Mr. Neil Cream again.
You warm enough, Holmes?
Perfectly.
I can't have you going down with a chill. Certainly the night for it. Pity they can't come up with a way of heating these cabs. Are you sure you wouldn't like another rug?
Do stop fussing, Watson.
I'm just looking after my patient. Would have thought you'd have learned to put up with it by now. Simon Horsath.
And who might he be?
No one, really. Well, no one in particular. Another of those anagrams.
Well, certainly not of Neil Cream.
My name, actually.
Really? Simon Horsath? John H. Watson? You have the better of me, old boy.
No. I omitted the John and used my middle name. The H stands for Hamish.
How very interesting. What time is it?
It's about 7 minutes to 10.
Can you see anything in the street?
Quiet as the grave. Mind you, can't see that much of it, damned fog. Not the sort of night to be out and about. Perhaps even Cream will think better of it.
He's here already, Watson.
Where?
Out there, in Looper Street. I know he is. I feel it.
I don't see how you can be so sure, old boy. I mean, he might not even have looked at the personal column today.
Impossible.
I suppose you know your man, Holmes. Mind you were right about his being here in England. Released from the penitentiary less than a month ago. Good behaviour of all things.
What's that?
I didn't hear.
Your revolver, Watson.
It's all right, it's only Lestrade. Had me a bit worried there.
Well, Lestrade?
Nothing to report, Mr. Holmes.
No sign of him, then?
Not much sign of anyone. A bit too quiet for my liking. Fog doesn't help either. Going to be a right pea super.
I take it you're ready for him.
Oh, I've been for the last half hour, Mr. Holmes. 20 of my best men all armed, plus Constable Billings, your driver.
They're well hidden?
I had a job finding them myself, and I knew where they were. Oh, pity it had to be Looper Street, though. Must be one of the longest in London.
Anything less, and he might not have taken the bait.
You think he'll show, then?
Without question.
But when? That's what I'd like to know.
5 minutes' time. I said 10 o'clock, and I don't think Mr. Cream would be one to disappoint me.
Well, we're ready for him. I feel lucky, Mr. Holmes. He'll wish he never set foot in this country by the time I've...
Good God!
He's here! I knew it!
Fast as you can, Billings!
Right, sir! Wait, mate.
Hold on, Lestrade!
I'm all right. Just hope we're in time.
Your man's certainly punctual, Holmes. Even early.
Possibly a little too early, Watson.
There they are! Outside the Three Feathers!
Whoa! Steady there!
At least there's some light down there!
Careful, Lestrade! That's a bit reckless of him, that.
He sees an end to his troubles, Watson.
Oh, yes, but I don't want two broken legs on my hands. I'll go and see what's happening. Now, you stay where you are, Holmes.
I must see for myself.
You're not leaving this cab.
For heaven's sake, Watson,
There'll be no
see...
argument. You're staying here. So, I'll be as quick as I can. Thank you very much. What's happening, Lestrade?
Hey? Oh, Doctor. This woman here... Oh, this is no good. Sergeant, what for? Sir? Move this crowd back. I can't hear myself think. Well, that's better. Now then, this is Jeannie Thompson. Says she come out of the pub there and started walking down... Oh, well, look, you might as well tell the doctor yourself.
Oh, sir. You see, I'll come out into the street.
Speak up, girl.
It's all right, Lestrade. Now, my dear, tell me your name.
Jeannie, sir. Jeannie Thompson.
All right, Jeannie. You're quite safe now. Just take your time and then tell me exactly what happened.
Well, sir, I've just been in the Free Feathers to get a top for my mother. Ever so poorly she is just now.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, I come out the door, and just as I was passing the alley there,
Huh?
this man came out and got hold of me.
Can you describe him?
Oh, I don't know, sir. It happened so sudden. I didn't really get a look at him. Ever so big he was, and strong.
And how was he dressed?
Oh, I'm not sure, sir. I think he had a cloak. A black cloak.
And then what happened?
Took out his fiddle and played an Irish reel, I shouldn't wonder.
Holmes!
Come here, Miss Thompson.
Really, Holmes?
I said, come here.
Come along now, Jeannie. We better do as he says, and don't be frightened.
Right.
Now, Jeannie Thompson, I have just one question for you.
Yes, sir?
Where is the tot you were taking to your mother?
I must have dropped it.
Then we'd better ask the inspector to find it for you.
No. Well, perhaps I forgot it, you know.
You mean you forgot the one thing that would bring a modicum of comfort to your poor, sick mother?
Well, I've just forgotten to look for it.
If the truth were known, your mother is probably in excellent health. Now, I want to know who put you up to this.
Who the hell do you think you are, then?
Someone who may have you charged with being an accessory to murder.
Holmes!
Murder? Oh, I don't know nothing about that.
Then you'd better tell me what you do know, and be quick about it.
I met this man, see? In there, about an hour ago. Give me a sovereign, he did. Said he wanted to play some sort of trick on some friends of his.
What sort of trick?
He didn't say. I was to start screaming just before 10 o'clock. It's all I know. Honest, I didn't know nothing about no murder. Please, you've got to believe me.
I do. But listen to me, Miss Thompson. You've had a very fortunate escape this evening. Very fortunate indeed. A constable will escort you home now.
Yes. Home? Oh, not yet. No fear. Oh, I need another drink.
Well, Mr. Holmes, seems we missed him this time.
I think not.
But, how do you mean?
Listen.
Well?
It's 10 o'clock, Lestrade. The appointed hour.
I'd, better tell my men to stand down, Mr. Holmes.
Never mind, Holmes. There's always another day. You'll have the last laugh, I know that.
Thank you, Watson. Well, I have to admit, Cream may well have got the better of us on this occasion, and yet I'm not completely convinced.
Come on.
What? Did you hear that, Mr. Holmes?
What? He's still here! Into the cab! What's
it? All of you, fall into the street! Come on! Come on, then! This way!
All right, Billings! Quick as you can now! Right you are, sir!
As we sped back down Lupus Street in the direction from which we had come but a few short moments before, I was only too well aware how Holmes would be reproaching himself for having endangered the life of an innocent person in his attempt to catch this fiend. I earnestly prayed that we might at least be in good time to save that life, even if Cream were to make good his escape on this occasion.
The door, Watson!
Hurry!
Now look here, Holmes, that leg of yours.
I take full responsibility! Come on! Sergeant Cross, take 6 men and seal that end of the street.
Any sign of him, Lestrade?
Ah, Mr. Holmes. If he's still here, we'll catch him.
I fear the fog may be in his favour. The victim, is she...
She's all right. Sergeant Woodthorpe's with her.
I must speak to
No, I'd rather you didn't, Mr. Holmes. She's very distressed. Seems our friend tried to force her to drink from his bottle.
His bottle of white stuff, no doubt.
No doubt. Perhaps you'd be so good as to take a look at her, Doctor?
Yes, of course.
It's for the best, Mr. Holmes. I'll take a full statement from her tomorrow.
You're quite right, Lestrade. I've done enough damage for one evening.
No, Mr. Holmes,
I had
didn't
no
mean-
right to risk an innocent life.
You were trying to protect a lot more.
And not making a particularly good job of it.
You've no reason to reproach yourself. You flushed him out. It's a damn sight more than I was able to do.
But I didn't net him, Lestrade.
Oh, you will, Mr. Holmes. I know you will.
Perhaps.
Everything all right, Doctor?
I think so. No real harm done. She's been through a terrible ordeal, of course, but she's young. Good night's sleep, that's what she needs.
Yeah, I'll get Woodthorpe to see her home. Perhaps you'd best do the same with Mr. Holmes here.
Eh? Oh, right, yes. Leave him to me.
I'll say good night then, Mr. Holmes. Billings will drive you back to Baker Street. I'll probably stop by in the morning. Unless we catch him tonight, of course. Oh, I'm inclined to agree with you about this fog being in his favour.
Good night, Lestrade.
Good night.
Yes. Good night.
Come on then, Holmes. Time we had you tucked up in bed.
I've failed, Watson.
Nonsense.
I've failed because I treated this whole business as a game. A game with Neil Cream as my opponent.
Nothing wrong with playing games, old boy.
Not when you deliberately choose to ignore the stakes. A woman's life, Watson.
But she's alive. She's all right.
This time, it will not happen again.
Come on now, Holmes. In the cab with you. That's it. And don't go taking all the rug this time, eh? I don't want to end up as my own patient. Right-o, Billings. Baker Street. I hope Mrs. Hudson's kept the fire in for us. Holmes?
What was that?
Oh, sorry, old boy. Didn't know you'd nodded off.
No, I was just thinking. What did you say?
I hope there's a fire waiting for us.
Yes.
And I think a nightcap could be in order. Strictly medicinal, of course.
Why have we stopped?
So we have.
We can't be in Baker Street already.
I wouldn't have thought so. Let me see now. Could be anywhere. Hardly see across the street. I'd better ask Billings what's going on. Perhaps he's the one that's dropped off, eh? Billings! I say, Billings!
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good Lord, Cream!
Keep your hands where I can see them, Doctor. I've no doubt a military-looking man such as yourself might well have a revolver to hand.
Do as he says, Watson.
Thank you.
What have you done with Billings?
He'll be all right. Most English policemen have thick skulls, I imagine.
When did you take his place?
In Lupus Street. Where else? Can you think of a better way to escape than to become the driver of the illustrious Sherlock Holmes, consulting detective?
I'd advise you to watch your tongue, sir.
You're hardly in a position to offer me advice, Doctor.
It's all right, Watson. Well, Cream, what do you want of us?
What makes you think I want anything? I have all I want. A dozen or more of Scotland Yard's finest men scouring Pimlico for me, whilst I sit here, chatting with the very man they all expect to bring me to justice. Don't you find that amusing, Mr. Holmes?
Not especially. I would remind you that your intended victim is alive and well.
Yeah, stupid girl couldn't bring herself to drink out of a bottle. But you have to admit that the execution, if you'll forgive my choice of the word, was excellent. You down one end of Lupus Street, myself down the other. If it is a game we're playing... Oh, yes, I overheard that particular part of your conversation. Then I do seem to be playing it rather well. Don't you think?
The game is not yet over. You will make your mistake yet.
Very doubtful. But consider this, Mr. Holmes. Even in the most unlikely event that I should ever make a mistake, and I am arrested, what good would it do you? You can't prove a thing. And I believe you know that.
Believe me, Cream, I will find a way.
I don't doubt you will try. Now, gentlemen, I think it is time I bade you good night. And Mr. Holmes, I would strongly advise you to curb your companion's natural impulse to try and stop me. I would be loath to deprive you of his company. I'm sure you need all the assistance you can get just now. Good night.
He's got nerve, I'll say that for him.
Most madmen do, Watson.
I don't suppose you want me to, try and follow him, do you? You know, find out where he's hiding up.
I prefer not, old friend.
So we just let him walk away, as it were.
Only for the time being. You know, he was right about one thing.
What's that?
As yet, we have no proof that he is the man who has placed half London in the grip of fear.
He's the Pimlico poisoner, all right. We both know that.
Undoubtedly. But I suspect a judge may well take the opposite view.
Surely there's something we can do.
I'm sure there is. And just as surely we will find it. Now, Watson, I hope you have a head for heights.
How do you mean?
I'm hardly in a position to climb up into the cabbie's seat.
Oh, I see. No, I suppose not. Oh, well. I better get on with it. Though, how I'm going to find Baker Street in this fog, Lord only knows. Come on, then. Gee up.
There you are, Watson.
Morning, Holmes.
I was expecting you at least 20 minutes ago.
I thought I'd have a bit of a stroll. Fog's lifted, sun shining. A wonderful morning.
Telegram for you.
Me?
From Lestrade. Seems Cream tried to obtain some more strychnine.
No.
Chemist in the Vauxhall Bridge Road. Lestrade wants you to meet him there.
What on earth for?
You're the medical man. No doubt he needs your expert opinion on some matter.
I see. Well, yes, I'm sure I can point him in the right direction, as it were.
You don't mind, then?
Oh, not at all. How's the leg today?
Oh, no problem at all.
Good. I just thought all that activity last night.
No damage done, I assure you.
Oh, glad to hear it. Yeah, better be off then. Be as quick as I can. Expert opinion, eh?
A moment. Come in. Ah, Mrs. Hudson. Surely it can't be lunchtime already.
Not yet, Mr. Holmes. You have a visitor.
Indeed.
Mr. Ian Murcell.
Ian Murcell? With 2 L's, of course.
I don't know about that, but I've got a feeling.
That you've seen him before?
That's right.
I'm sure you have, Mrs. Hudson. Show him in, please.
This way.
Thank you. Good day, Mr. Holmes.
Good day to you, Mr. Murcell. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
Very good, sir.
I have the impression I've been expected.
Lestrade would have sent a cab, not a telegram.
And you obviously realized it was better that I see you without Dr. Watson being present.
I agree that my colleague would be more inclined to indulge in some physical act of aggression against you than I.
May I sit down?
Please do. The far chair.
Certainly. But you need have no fears for your safety, I assure you. Besides, I see you have your sword stick to hand. I've no doubt you know how to use it.
What is the purpose of your visit?
I've come to congratulate you, Mr. Holmes.
Really? You were hardly in such a generous mood on the last occasion we met.
That was last night. A good night's sleep has helped me to form a different picture. You're clever, Holmes. Damned clever. Of course, there was no danger of your catching me last night, but I have the feeling that were there to be similar occasions in the future, and should Lady Luck happen to be smiling on you, then I could be in danger of losing my liberty.
What exactly are you saying?
That I enjoy a challenge, but I prefer the odds to remain firmly in my favor. England is a small country. Where I am concerned, you make it even smaller. I am moving on.
So, you admit defeat?
Hardly. I still have my liberty.
Not for much longer, I assure you.
You play from a weak hand, Mr. Holmes. Perhaps in time. But I feel discretion should be the better part of valor. Which is why I have decided to move on.
To where?
The continent. It offers two distinct advantages. More room and no Sherlock Holmes.
I should feel flattered.
You may feel whatever you please.
And yet I find it difficult, if not impossible, to believe you.
That is no concern of mine.
I think you're running away.
Hardly running, Mr. Holmes. I shall catch the boat train whenever I please.
With only 2 successful poisonings.
I have no regrets.
And 1 failure. Your efforts in Looper Street hardly do you credit, Cream.
A temporary setback. Nothing more.
Hardly a setback. By your own admission, a somewhat pathetic end.
Why, Mr. Holmes, I do believe you may be trying to persuade me to stay.
On the contrary, if Looper Street is the best you can do, I, for one, will be glad to see the back of you.
Have a care, sir. I came here in all good faith. I would prefer to leave that way.
You may leave any way you choose. The sooner the better, as far as I am concerned.
I will not be provoked, Mr. Holmes. I have the greatest respect for your abilities, and have no doubt you have enjoyed the intellectual pleasure of our dealings as much as I.
Intellectual pleasure? You flatter yourself, Cream. If those pathetic anagrams of yours are the nearest you get to intellectual pleasure, your mind must be even more diseased than I'd thought.
I'm warning you, Holmes.
I can think of no better time for you to leave for the continent, as there is no doubt in my mind that should you attempt to continue in this imbecilic, amateurish way, you will have as good as put the hangman's noose around your own neck. Or you'll end up in the lunatic asylum, which is undoubtedly where you belong.
You'll pay for that!
One step further, Cream, and I shall put a bullet right between your eyes. Exactly, my friend. A sword stick needs mobility. A revolver merely a steady hand and an excellent eye. And I assure you, I have both.
You wouldn't dare. Not here.
Perhaps you'd care to put that to the test.
It would be murder.
I hardly think the destruction of vermin would be considered a capital offence.
Very well, Holmes. Now listen carefully.
I should prefer not to listen to your rantings, Cream. Just close the door on your way out, there's a good chap.
You pay for this, Holmes. I swear that within 24 hours, you'll wish you'd never heard of my name.
For heaven's sake, Holmes, we have to talk about this. For my own part, I don't mind being sent on some wild goose chase. But when your very life is threatened by this madman, the least you can do is take it seriously. Oh, really, Holmes, you might stop your fiddling when I'm trying to talk to you.
Fiddling, Watson? I may only have paid 55 shillings at a broker's in Tottenham Court Road for this instrument, but it is a Stradivarius. However, although I am perfectly willing to conduct our conversation in this delightful manner, obviously you are not. There, Watson. You have my undivided attention.
Pleased to hear it.
Well?
Damn it all, Holmes, the man has threatened your life.
Better my life than some innocent person on the other side of the channel.
But you don't seem in the least concerned.
On the contrary, I am most concerned. I simply refuse to let it deprive me of my pleasures. Few though they may be.
But surely, I mean, don't you think we should inform Lestrade?
The last person I would inform of my present predicament. Lestrade has many admirable qualities, but the subtle art of giving protection without advertising his presence is one which, alas, I fear has passed him by.
But you can't just sit here and wait for Cream to make his move.
Can you suggest a more comfortable place?
Well, you may not be concerned for your own safety, but I can assure you that there are those amongst us who do care very much indeed.
My dear Watson, good faithful friend, my only real concern is that my actions may put at risk one I hold in the deepest esteem and affection.
After all we've been through together, least I can do.
But as I know neither when nor where my adversary will make his move, I have no alternative but to endeavour to keep my spirits up.
put on a brave front, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Well, I suppose it's for the best.
And even better when one has eaten well. So, if you'd be good enough to open the door for Mrs. Hudson, I fancy I hear her step on the stairs.
Yes, of course.
Bearing the supper tray, I trust.
Must say, I'm feeling a bit peckish myself.
Oh, Dr. Watson, you made me jump.
Sorry, Mrs. Hudson. Perhaps I could...
I can manage, thank you. Be ashamed to drop it now.
Is that game pie I see, Mrs. Hudson?
It is.
Excellent. And the cup that cheers, too.
Well, I don't know about that, but this bottle comes with Mr. Lestrade's compliments. Come this afternoon when I was out.
Very generous of him.
I'll put the tray down here. I'm sure you can do the rest, Doctor.
I'll take care of our patient, Mrs. Hudson. Don't you worry about that.
Then I wish you'd hurry up and get him back on his feet again. I've lost count of the number of times I've been up and down these stairs in the past 6 weeks. Must have worn at least one pair of shoes out, to say nothing of the linoleum.
You see, it's all your fault, Watson. I knew you hadn't been taking care of me properly.
Anyone who has you for a patient, Holmes, deserves a medal.
At the very least. Now, we have some serious business to attend to. Let me see the cork.
I don't know why you don't just look at the label.
A wine label is merely for confirmation of one's sensory analysis. There would be little point in developing an acute sense of smell if it were not to be put to the test from time to time. Now, let me see. Well, now, a claret, of course, but undoubtedly an aristocrat.
Yes, possibly. Year?
All in good time, Watson. We must start with the grape. 70 to 80% Merlot and... Ah, yes, Boucher for the balance. Now, that tells us immediately we are not merely in Bordeaux, but at the very shrine of claret. Pomerol itself. Chateau Petrus, of course. As for the year, another 12 months and it might well have faded, but right now... 15 years of perfection. 1876. Am I right?
Of course.
Then I claim my reward.
Eh? Oh, yes, of course. Didn't know Lestrade had such good taste in wine. Very generous of him. Must have cost him a pretty penny. There you are, Holmes. Holmes?
What? Oh, yes. Thank you.
Still, ours is not to reason why.
Here's to Lestrade. And Chateau Petrus.
No!
Holmes, what's come over you?
I should have known straight away.
Known what?
That neither Lestrade's financial situation nor his taste in claret extends to Chateau Petrus.
Well, perhaps not, but knocking the glass from my hand like that, I mean...
Even though it contains such a deadly vintage?
Deadly?
The inevitable result of mixing Merlot, Boucher, and Nux vomica, the St. Ignatius bean, or any other variety of the Legeniaceae family.
Strychnine?
The very same.
But who... Neil Cream?
Certainly the only person I know insane enough to molest the noblest claret of them all. And he was good enough to reassure me of his intention to point out the error of my ways within 24 hours. He's been as good as his word.
Strychnine.
I shall have to analyse it, of course, but I should be most surprised if my diagnosis were to prove incorrect.
But I might have...
Precisely, Watson. Or, more importantly, from Neil Cream's point of view, I should be the one who, even now, should be gasping my last breath as the poison took its deadly hold.
But all's well that ends well. No harm done.
All is well, yes, but hardly the end, Watson. In fact, merely the beginning of a long night's work.
Really? What had you in mind?
My demise.
Good Lord.
At this very moment, Neil Cream undoubtedly believes me to be as good as dead. A misconception I feel we can turn to our advantage.
What did you have in mind, Holmes?
My obituary, Watson. After which, you and Lestrade will visit Victoria Station to make preparations for Mr. Cream's imminent departure to the continent. But first, I must prepare a sketch of a certain piece of apparatus for the only person in London who would undertake a commission of this nature at so late an hour. Jeremiah Fogg in the Whitechapel Road.
As I had a long night ahead of me, Holmes insisted I eat as much of Mrs. Hudson's game pie as I could comfortably accommodate, while he hastily prepared the documentation I would need to carry out his various commissions. My first call had been Scotland Yard, where I left a message for Lestrade to contact Holmes as a matter of the utmost urgency, after which my conversations with such Fleet Street editors as were still at their places of work established that their morning editions would carry the headlines that Neil Cream was undoubtedly awaiting with considerable eagerness. My third task brought me to that part of London that will forever be associated with the terror of the so-called Ripper murders. The dimly lit streets, the impenetrable menace of the maze of alleyways that lay behind them, and above all, the unaccountably threatening atmosphere that always descended with the darkness. It was not without some trepidation, therefore, that I left the comparative sanctuary of my cab and proceeded down a narrow passage at the end of which I would find, or so my driver had assured me, the premises of the man Holmes had sent me to see.
What do you want?
Jeremiah Fogg.
And if I am?
Then I have a commission for you.
Come back in the morning.
Please, Mr. Fogg. Open the door. I must speak with you.
I told you to come back in the morning.
The job is urgent. It must be done tonight.
Not by me, it won't. Now look what you've done. Get up here! Go on, get out of it!
I come from Sherlock Holmes.
Do you now? Should have said so straight away.
Well,
Come on, get inside. Can't the old world knowing my business?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry. I didn't realise it.
It's better. Just you, me, and the dog. Now, what does Mr. Holmes want?
He made this drawing for you.
Give us it here. Ah. Yeah, I see. That should be all right. Come back in an hour.
I'd prefer to wait, if you don't mind.
Suit yourself?
An hour, you say?
Yeah, about that.
Very well, I shall wait in the cab. Perhaps you would like payment in advance?
Oh, there's no charge. Not for Mr. Holmes.
The hour spent waiting in the cab was one of the longest of my life. I am not given to exaggeration, although I would admit to the occasional embellishment when chronicling some of the adventures Holmes and I have shared, but the threatening nature of that particular part of our great metropolis unnerved me to such an extent that I occasionally called out to the cabby to reassure myself that I was not entirely alone. But having eventually collected a small package from Jeremiah Fogg, I was much relieved to find myself once more in the sanctuary of our Baker Street rooms, where I found Holmes instructing Lestrade on the precise part he was to play in the events of the next day.
There you are, Watson. Lestrade and I were just thinking of sending out a search party for you.
Oh, quite right, Mr. Holmes. I mean, Doctor. Gentleman of your disposition, out by himself at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, anything might have happened to you.
Say, steady on. I know how to look after myself, you know.
Of course you do, Watson. And for my money, there's no one I'd rather have by my side when danger threatens.
Dear chap.
And make no mistake, we play a dangerous game. A game which should be resolved tomorrow, one way or the other.
We'll be ready for him, Mr. Holmes.
I don't doubt it, Lestrade. Now, Watson, I presume the package you carry is from Jeremiah Fogg.
Yes.
There you are.
He's a queer sort of cove.
Well, they do say 10 years in prison can affect one's personality.
Prison? You didn't tell me he'd been in prison.
We mustn't hold the man's past against him, eh, Lestrade?
Oh, indeed not, Mr. Holmes.
You don't know what he was sent down for?
Let me see now. Some sort of assault charge, as I recall.
Robbery with violence, surely.
With some grievous bodily harm thrown in, I shouldn't wonder.
Good Lord.
Had some sort of grievance, as I remember.
Grudge against the whole medical profession, I think.
Yeah, always swore he'd get even.
You didn't say you were a doctor, did you, Watson?
Well, no, I don't think so.
No, couldn't have done.
Wouldn't be here now if you had.
Good heavens. Do you mean to say that was... Oh, you don't mean to say that. You don't think you would... Oh, I see.
Watson. Oh, dear friend, please forgive me.
Nothing to forgive, is there? You can take a joke as well as the next fella. No, don't worry about me.
Please, Watson, we were laughing at the situation, not at you.
Yes, I can see that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, what's in the package, then? A kosh? Razor? Something like that?
Far from it. Jeremiah Fogg is a master craftsman, a glassblower of extraordinary ability. Behold his latest creation.
So that's what I went for.
To do with one of your chemistry experiments, is it, Mr. Holmes?
Close, Lestrade. In fact, Fogg has fashioned much of the apparatus you see on my bench over there. No. These two glass tubes and the minute bridge that connects them have been designed to help bring a murderer to justice.
Really? Well, I'm dashed if I can... How's he going to do that?
Well, unless I'm very much mistaken, all will be revealed tomorrow morning. Or rather, this morning. Time you were off, Lestrade.
Oh, right.
You too, Watson.
Where are we going?
Victoria Station. You're quite clear as to what has to be done, Lestrade?
Perfectly, Mr. Holmes.
Good. And remember, it's almost certain to be the 9:30 boat train.
Yeah, I'll make sure everything's ready. Come along then, Doctor. We've got a busy night ahead of us.
Very well. I suppose I'll be told what's going on eventually. What will you be doing then, Holmes?
Me? I shall be in my bed.
Oh, will you now?
Yes, indeed. If my next meeting with the Pimlico poisoner is to be our final encounter, which will, of course, depend on the effect of the headlines in this morning's newspapers, then I shall need all my wits about me. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, Mr. Holmes.
Excuse me, Constable.
Yes, love?
I was wondering. That is, you see, my eyesight isn't what it used to be, so I don't read the newspapers anymore.
Yes?
But I overheard some people talking, and do say it isn't true.
Well, what's that then?
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, they said he was dead.
I'm afraid so, love.
Oh, no.
Looks like the work of this Pimlico poisoner again.
Oh, how dreadful. Poor Mr. Holmes.
There's a lot of folk that are missing.
Yes, indeed. Oh, now what am I going to do?
Now, you mustn't go upsetting yourself.
No, it's not that. I have a train to catch, you see, and I seem to have mislaid Victoria Station.
That's right, sir. Platform 4, change at Ashford.
Thank you so much.
Right. Where to, madam?
Oh, I have my ticket already.
I'm very pleased to hear that, madam. Is there something else I can help you with?
It's my sciatica, you see, and I do have this bag to carry.
If you care to call a porter, madam, you'll get all the assistance you need. Next, please.
But there doesn't seem to be a porter available.
I'm sorry, madam, but as you can see, I am...
Perhaps you would be so kind.
I'm sorry, madam, I can't leave the office.
Then perhaps your colleague, the young man sitting in there with you.
No, I'm afraid he's not free either, madam. Now, if you would kindly stand aside, there are people waiting for tickets.
But surely your friend wouldn't mind helping me. I'd be so grateful.
I'll take her to the train. You'll never get rid of her otherwise.
Thanks, Sergeant. Who said our policemen are never there when you want them? There's someone coming round to help you, madam.
How kind.
So if you could just step aside, there are other people waiting for tickets.
Oh, I'm so sorry. How thoughtless of them.
Right then, which platform?
The boat train. This is most kind of you.
Glad to be of service. Now, I'll take your bag. There we are. And if you'd like to take my arm.
How charming. Thank you so much.
Off to Paris, are you?
Not if I can avoid it.
I'd take your... What the... Good heavens. Mr. Holmes.
Not so loud, Sergeant Woodthorpe. I'm supposed to be dead.
I know, sir, but... I mean, why are you dressed up like that?
I know of nothing better to disguise the fact that one's leg is cased in plaster than the voluminous folds of a lady's skirt. Although I do admit to an aversion to wearing all the other garments that complete the ensemble of the opposite sex, particularly this somewhat ridiculous hat.
I don't know, Mr. Holmes. It rather suits you.
That will do, Woodthorpe. Tell me, is our man on the train?
He is. Like you said, sir. We told him there was only a private carriage left.
And he took it?
Didn't give it a second thought.
Lestrade and Watson, are they ready?
Just like you instructed.
Tickets, please. Have your tickets ready,
Have you got a ticket, Mr. Holmes?
My bag, please.
Eh? Oh, yes. There we are.
Now, where did I put... Ah, yes, here we are.
Thank you, madam.
And one platform ticket. He's my nephew, you know.
Thank you, madam. Have your tickets ready, please. 4 tickets, please.
Thank you. Auntie.
Enjoy the relationship while you can, Woodthorpe. I'm sure Inspector Lestrade will be anxious to know you have played your part in the appropriate manner.
Quite, sir. Begging your pardon, sir. How's that leg of yours?
The sciatic or the plaster one?
The one in plaster.
I'm certainly looking forward to sitting down in a first-class smoker for an hour or two.
This coach, sir. 3rd compartment down.
The door, if you would be so kind.
Good luck, sir.
Aren't you going to say goodbye to your Aunt Woodthorpe?
Oh, yes. Take care of yourself, Auntie. Have a good trip.
Thank you, dear. And make sure you're a good boy while I'm away. Good morning.
I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a private carriage.
Oh, now I don't object to you smoking, but do open the window a little.
I repeat, ma'am, this is a private carriage.
I'll just pull down the blinds on the corridor side, and then no one need wonder why an old lady has her leg in plaster, her feet on their opposite seat,
and can't wait to take off the ridiculous hat she's wearing.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Holmes. You had me completely fooled.
As obviously did the headlines in this morning's newspapers.
Yes, indeed. A masterly stroke, but forgive me, I fail to see what you hope to gain from this little charade of yours, albeit so admirably performed.
My dear Cream, it's a simple matter of redressing the balance. You got the better of me in Looper Street. I can return the compliment at Victoria Station.
Of course. I should have expected nothing less from so worthy an opponent. We're about to leave, Mr. Holmes. Forgive me if I let an old lady find her own way onto the platform.
The next platform on which I intend to alight is that of Dover. You don't think I could allow such an illustrious adversary to leave these shores without showing my appreciation of an intellect which, though I am reluctant to admit it, comes near to matching that of my own.
Praise indeed. For my part, Holmes, I welcome the diversion your conversation will provide on an otherwise dreary journey, but I warn you, if you have subterfuge in mind, have a care. I am in no mood to be trifled with. Although, even you must now have accepted that there is no evidence against me, and no legal reason why I should not leave England in the manner in which I arrived, a free man.
Regrettable, but true. Now, as I have forced my company on you, I feel I must provide some of the diverting conversation you have so generously ascribed to me. There is one story you may find particularly amusing. It was a case I investigated a few years ago on behalf of Lord... but perhaps he had better remain incognito. Now, originally, I had been called in to establish the whereabouts of a distant relative with whom his lordship was anxious to renew his acquaintance, but my subsequent inquiries revealed a very strange set of circumstances. Although the only tangible evidence I had was the fact that the incorrect grade of lubricating oil had been applied to the flywheel, his lordship was generous enough to admit I was right. And paid my fee there and then.
So there was no missing relative?
And no crime. Although, I do feel that the caprices in which certain members of our aristocratic families indulge themselves should be dealt with by a stiffer sentence than mere expulsion from their clubs.
Capital, Holmes. I should have loved to have seen his lordship's face when you showed him the empty bread bin.
It was rather amusing. Oh, that reminds me, Cream. Talking of bread bins, a toast. I thought we might drink to the recent skirmishes we have enjoyed, in which neither of the best men won.
I doubt if the dining car could supply a vintage worthy of the occasion. Perhaps it don't.
Yes, I anticipated that, and I took the liberty... Yes, here it is, of bringing a bottle that may just live up to your expectations. Admittedly, not quite as noble as the one you sent round to me last night, but... nevertheless, it should suffice.
Come now, Holmes. You don't seriously expect me to drink from any bottle of wine you produce?
And surely you don't expect me to be so naive as to attempt to deceive you by using your methods. Apart from which, I could never bring myself to adulterate the contents that such a distinguished label proclaims.
You know, I almost believe you. I'd certainly like to fit an end to our relationship.
Nothing would please me more. But, as you obviously require more substantial proof of my motives, we will first remove the cork, should have opened this earlier, of course. And then somewhere... Ah, yes, here we are. 2 of Mrs. Hudson's very best glasses. There. Now, the colour, magnificent. The bouquet, oh, superb. And the taste, oh, words fail me. Do you know, Cream, I should be rather pleased if you did force me to keep this bottle to myself, though, would I still be able to negotiate the platform at Dover?
All right, Holmes, you win. I'd be happy to drink with you.
I'm very pleased to hear it. There.
Thank you.
I drink to a master.
And I drink to the world's greatest consulting detective. Your health, Mr. Holmes.
And yours, Mr. Cream.
You're right. A splendid wine.
Then let me refill your glass.
Thank you.
So, you moved to pastures new.
Indeed. I've always dreamed of going to Paris.
You realize that Inspector Lestrade will be sending details of your recent activities here to the French authorities?
I expect nothing less.
I have a mind to advise him against it.
Now, why should you wish to do that?
Well, quite simply because I'm not entirely convinced you are what the more sensational elements of our popular press have come to refer to as the Pimlico poisoner.
Really? And what has led you to that conclusion?
Well, the fact that we have no proof. Not one shred of evidence to link you with these murders, apart from your sojourn in the Illinois State Penitentiary, which did, as I recall, start with the illegal use of strychnine.
True, you have no proof as far as Lestrade is concerned, but between you and me, surely no proof is required. We both know.
Well, that is my dilemma. I'm not sure that I do. Not for certain.
What?
Let me explain. Suppose, just suppose, mind you, that you are not the murderer, but you were so fascinated with the crimes that were baffling the police that you decided to capitalize on their inability to solve them by embarking on an intellectual duel with myself.
Hardly likely.
But perfectly plausible.
Then tell me this. Why did I take the place of the police coachman in Lupus Street that night?
Sheer effrontery. Also to make me believe that you were the murderer. I must say, you very nearly succeeded.
All right. How did I know exactly where to be that night? How could I have known an attempted murder would take place at exactly 10 o'clock?
Yes, I thought about that. I can only conclude that not only did you set up the false alarm at the far end of the street, but you also persuaded another young lady to scream at the top of her voice 10 minutes later.
Nonsense!
Not only that, you also paid her enough to make up some cock and bull story about a large man with whiskers and a bottle of white liquid.
Make no mistake, Holmes, I am the Pimlico poisoner. And if it's proof you want, listen very carefully to the following facts. Facts that did not appear in the newspapers. Ellen Dodsworth, 19, yes, but born in Bradford, not Leeds. 4 months pregnant at the time of death. Orphan. Matilda Clover, music hall artist. Favorite food, oysters. Favorite drink, champagne. Father, a lighterman. Brother, a waiter. Mother, dead.
How'd you know all this?
Because they talked to me. They talked to me. Before I made them drink.
And what did you make them drink? Whiskey? Gin?
I made them drink from my bottle.
Which contained?
Strychnine. So now do you believe me? Or do you need further proof?
No. I think that should be sufficient. All right, Watson, Lestrade, you can come in now.
What is this? What are you doing?
Making you feel better. They do say confession is good for the cell.
This won't work, Holmes.
We shall see. May I introduce Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard? Dr. Watson, you know.
Neil Cream, I arrest you for the murder of Ellen Dodsworth and Matilda Clover.
Do you now?
It is my duty to warn you that anything you say...
I've heard all that before. On what grounds are you making these charges?
Your confession, Mr. Cream.
It's my word against yours, Holmes.
And that of Lestrade and Watson.
Really? Are they prepared to perjure themselves?
Not at all. They overheard every word you said from the next compartment.
Every word. Clear as a bell.
Both of us.
Come, gentlemen, you stretch my patience too far. Apart from the noise of the train, there are 2 seats and a partition to prevent you hearing one single word.
I think not. If you please, Lestrade.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes.
Behold, the next compartment. No partition, no second seat to muffle the sound. Well done, Lestrade. You too, Watson. A splendid night's work.
As I was saying, you are not obliged to say anything.
You really believe this will stand up in court?
3 against 1? No longer simply my word against yours.
With the word of 3 people whose reputation demands they put someone on trial for the Pimlico poisonings at any cost? Why, any defense lawyer worth his salt would have your testimonies thrown out, and you know it.
I admit there is some element of risk in sending you to trial on the evidence of your confession alone.
Risk? You'd be laughed out of court.
Which is why your dying deposition will carry much more weight.
Explain yourself.
A dying deposition, or a statement taken from an accused man when he believes himself to be near to death, is regarded in law as a valid testimony. Is that not so, Lestrade?
Well, yes, Mr. Holmes, but I hardly think...
Even better when recorded by a priest, of course, but with the good doctor here.
I admire your tenacity, Mr. Holmes. Why, I'd even like to oblige you by giving you one of those dying depositions. However, as I have no intention of breathing my last for many years to come, I must forego that pleasure.
We shall see. Watson, 1 glass of wine taken from a bottle containing 1/5 of a grain of strychnine. How long would you say? 30 minutes?
Less than that. 20 at the most.
Which leaves you about 10 minutes, Cream. 10 minutes in which to come to terms with your conscience.
You really must be desperate to expect me to believe this bluff of yours, Holmes. We drank from the same bottle. I doubt if even you would make the supreme sacrifice to prove I am a murderer.
Heaven forbid. I have far more important things to do. But let me show you something. A perfectly ordinary bottle on the outside. But when I put my finger down into the neck... Ah, yes, there we are. Not quite so ordinary on the inside. What was the trade of Jeremiah Fogg, Watson?
Glass blower, wasn't it?
Master glass blower. And here we have the perfect example of his art. 2 slender glass tubes connected at the bottom and bridged at the top, and one of them blown into a small bowl, and of exactly the right dimension and delicacy to pass through the neck of the bottle, but to remain unseen to all but the most astute observer. Ah, I see I have your attention, Mr. Cream. Let me explain. Before inserting the apparatus, I filled it with a glass of the claret as it left the chateau. Naturally, that was the glass I drank. But the second glass, the contents of which now rest in your stomach, Mr. Cream, was unfortunately tainted by a certain substance with which I believe you have more than a passing acquaintance, to wit, strychnine.
You may wish to speak to Inspector Lestrade now.
Kill you for this, Holmes. I'll kill you!
Stop him, Doctor!
Get his other arm.
Come on! He's too strong for me!
He's choking Holmes to death.
The bottle, Doctor! Hit him with the bottle!
Can't reach him.
You'll never take me alive! May the devil take the lot of you!
You better. Can you get the door shut, Lestrade?
I'll try!
Are you all right, Holmes?
Holmes!
I killed him, Watson. I sent him to his death.
You have indeed, Mr. Holmes. Had I known, I'd never have let you take the law into your own hands like this.
But surely he was a dead man as soon as he drank the wine.
A bottle of Montbusquet may well take away one's breath, but never permanently.
Do you mean there was no strychnine?
Precisely.
But all that stuff about the glass and Jeremiah Fogg,
it worked rather well, didn't it? Too well.
Oh, come, Holmes. You can't blame yourself for the death of a man like that, a murderer.
Can't I? I cheated him by making him think he was dying. He cheated me by taking his life into his own hands. I killed him, Watson! I will never forgive myself for that.
What do we do now, Lestrade?
I'm not quite sure, Doctor. I've never pulled the emergency chain before.
Here we are, home sweet home. Come on, old chap. Ah, Lestrade.
Yes.
Mrs. Hudson let you in, did she?
Well, perhaps I should have waited downstairs.
No, perfectly all right. Just in time to welcome home my ex-patient. In you come, Holmes. Show us all how well you can walk now.
Really, Watson, I would prefer not to be treated like a 4-year-old. Good morning to you, Lestrade.
Morning, Mr. Holmes.
Think you can make it to the chair by yourself?
For pity's sake, Watson, if this is a sample of your bedside manner, I shall be careful never to display any symptoms of whatever ails before me in the future.
See what I've had to endure all these weeks, Lestrade. What a patient.
Well, I'm sure it must be a great relief to you, Mr. Holmes. Getting that plaster off, I mean.
You will never know how much. Now, what brings you to Baker Street?
Well, I seem to have come just at the right time. You being back on your feet, as it were. That is, Scotland Yard have need of your services again.
Excellent. Delighted to hear it. I like to keep busy. Anything to keep my mind off that depressing business yesterday.
Well, this could well have something to do with yesterday's business.
You'd better tell me about it.
Well, sir, after the train stopped and I'd organised the coach to take you and Dr. Watson back to Ashford, Woodthorpe and I and some of his men, we searched the line for his body.
And?
We didn't find it. Well, as you know, the London train passed us just after we'd stopped, so I thought the body might have been pushed down the line a bit.
Well?
We covered 5 miles, both sides of the tracks. No sign of him.
But he must be there. Probably rolled down the embankment, lying under a bush or something.
Well, that's what I thought, sir. Sergeant Woodthorpe and his men are still searching.
Then I don't see how I can help, Lestrade. I may have had my plaster cast removed this morning, but even I would not be so foolhardy as to go scrambling in and out of the undergrowth looking for Neil Cream's body.
That's not what I had in mind, Mr. Holmes. You see, we had a report in from the Kent Constabulary this morning. Well, more a request for assistance, you might say. Seems they had a murder last night. Young lady near Ashford. Poisoned. With strychnine.
In The Adventure of the Pimlico Poisoner, Sherlock Holmes was played by William Chubb, Dr. Watson by Crawford Logan, and Neil Cream by Peter Harlow. Inspector Lestrade was Terry Malloy, Mrs. Hudson, Tina Gray, Sergeant Woodthorpe, Chris MacDonnell, and Constable Billings, Alex Jones. Jeannie Thompson was played by Kimberly Hope, Jeremiah Fogg by Roger Hume, and Matilda Clover by Susan Mansell. Holmes Stradivarius was played by Roger Cool. The Adventure of the Pimlico Poisoner was written by Peter Mackie and directed at Pebble Mill by Nigel Bryant.